again, everybody. Lance Russell and Dave Brown right along ringside. By golly, we're about ready to go with more big action.
Thank you very much, and welcome to Georgia Championship Wrestling. I'm Gordon Solie, your host, and we have quite an hour in store for us.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Championship Wrestling at ringside. This is Vince McMahon, along with wrestling's only living legend, Bruno Sammartino.
Welcome to this week's edition of Mid-South Wrestling Television. I'm your host, Boyd Pierce, another outstanding card.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Regional Wrestling Podcast, where we talk the territories. And this week, guys, it's been a few weeks, and a lot of people have been out there chirping. I've heard a lot of people asking, what happened to Georgia Championship Wrestling? What happened to Jammie Ward? Well, guys, ask no further, because we're going to take care of all of that right here this week. Bringing them back in just a moment, because we are returning to Georgia Championship Wrestling 1981, heading into the month of September. And in order to do that, let's bring him back onto the show. Mr. Jammie Ward, are you ready for some more Georgia?
I'm ready to go, Ray. I mean, unfortunately, let's blame the United States Postal Service for my lack of air time recently.
Hey, man, you said it, not me.
I'm chomping at the bit, and let's get ready to go, babe.
I love it, man. We finished off last time. Usually we try to wrap up with an OMNI show, but the way everything's been booked now, we didn't quite get there, Jammie. So we're actually going to kick off this week, taking a look at the final OMNI card for the month of August, going back to August 29th in 1981, guys. And usually a little banter back and forth, but we've got so much to get into this week. And I know, Jammie, you've been shilling this episode specifically because there's some big things about to happen.
Very big things. Most people probably have seen what you posted on Facebook and Twitter by now. So we're going to dive into it head first because there's a lot to talk about.
Absolutely. But before we get there, we're going to kick it all off. Like I said, we're going to go back to Atlanta, Georgia, the OMNI on August the 29th and take a look at that card. As we get rolling here this week, guys, it's the French Angel over Rick Ferreira, Bruno Sammartino Jr. defeating David Sierra, Steve-O over Professor Sonoda. Hey, what a nice undercard here, Jammie. Imagine
the Angel against Ferreira. Ferreira's coming off that broken nose, and if the Angel goes the wrong way, Ferreira might snap in this match.
It's like Ferreira's kind of like a mini Angel, really. So that's kind of a fun match to kick things off with. But just looking at the card so far, fun little undercard. But we've also got Kevin Von Erich here over Brian St. John. Remember this match, guys? Bruiser Brody brought in Big Chris Cannon from the Knoxville territory. King Kong Bundy will know him best as. But first, he's going to be Big Daddy Bundy in the Dallas territory. But before he does any of that, he's simply Big Chris Cannon here. Unfortunately, he's not big enough to get the job done. Bruiser Brody going over on the 400-plus pounder.
Yeah, well, we knew Brody was going over. He's just too young in Mr. Cannon's career to be put over. But it was still probably an honor to be selected by Brody to bring that little match over from Knoxville.
Yeah, absolutely. Also on the card, George Wells teaming with a Grumpy Grandpa, Mr. Wrestling #2, over the team of Iron Mike Sharpe and Big John Studd. And you talked about coming down from the Knoxville territory. So did Big John Studd. In fact, I did some result searches here when we were doing research for this show, and John Studd actually worked the Knoxville TV tapings the morning of here. That's why he didn't appear on the TBS show today, because he was actually taping in Knoxville. Then he got in his car and drove all the way down here to Atlanta to work the OMNI as well. Unfortunately, didn't work out for Mr. Studd. Wells and Wrestling 2 going over in this one.
Yeah, things are working well here. You got Flair and Mulligan sending down talent to help Uncle Ole out.
So last time out, the Masked Superstar, he made a few excuses. Of course, he is now the National Heavyweight Champion, having defeated your guy, Mr. Personality, Steve-O, for that championship. And he lost to Tommy Rich, though, on his first night back. And he looked for revenge here, looked to gain the Georgia Heavyweight title in the process. Only Tommy Rich's title was on the line here. It is Georgia champion Tommy Rich, though, walking out once again successful over the Superstar, who will also retain his title because, well, it wasn't up for grabs.
Yeah, he refused to put it up for grabs, if everyone remembers the last television.
Well, he didn't need to. I mean, Tommy Rich is no Bunk Harris.
Very true.
Or Danny Miller, or the other names that Superstar was pulling out of his ass there. That was good stuff. Now we fast forward to, I believe it's the main event of the OMNI card. Wow, what a tag team matchup this is. Michael P.S. Hayes goes out and gets 1/8 wonder of the world, Andre the Giant, to do battle against the current Georgia Tag Team Champions, Superfly Jimmy Snuka and Terry Gordy. Now this match, non-title guys. And this is actually going to play on the upcoming TV, so we'll talk about the finish here, Jammie. We see a referee bump here. It leads to a four-way melee, all four guys in the ring. And then Andre the Giant and Terry Gordy spilled to the floor. And I wrote, what a big spill that was. As
the humanity.
There you go. Absolutely. So the big guys take the bump out to the floor. And then in the ring, it's Michael Hayes and Jimmy Snuka. Now the Superfly, this is a fun spot. You don't see this every day. Trying to toss Michael Hayes over the top rope. Now, I don't know if he was going for the intentional DQ or he was simply trying to toss Hayes out of the ring. Either way, very fun spot here. As Hayes goes to fly over the top rope, Andre the Giant simply reaches up to prevent Hayes from going over, shoving PS back into the ring. He cracks into Snuka. Hayes lands on top and gets the 1, 2, 3, I wrote, unique finish you could only do with someone like Andre.
Absolutely. I mean, that was, whoever came up with that was brilliant. I'm going to assume Ole came up with it, or Andre came up with it because they used it someplace else once upon a time.
I was going to say, we can't say that it was never used before because there's so much wrestling that doesn't exist on film, sadly. But at the same time, I've never seen this on TV.
No, I've never seen this finish at all. I mean, up to that point. And you know what? Even when this card was announced, if I had been like 18 years old, I would have been on a plane to the Omni that night.
And the undercard's pretty solid. And yes, you get Superstar and Tommy Rich, but overall, it's a solid, fun card, but it's not really bringing me out. I'm like, I would have went to all these anyway because I was simply a wrestling mark, period. You didn't really need to oversell the card to get me to come. But there's nothing huge on the underneath. And then you get to Tommy Rich and Superstar. Okay, valid match there. Champion versus champion. But that main event, you're absolutely right. Michael Hayes in that war against Terry Gordy and his new partner, Superfly Snuka, but he brings out the biggest gun possible in Andre the Giant.
Right, and you can't get any bigger than Andre. There are going to be some guys that are going to be pretty big coming up helping out Hayes, but nobody matches the size of Andre.
One thing's for sure, no matter the size, everybody, you go to the eyes, and even the giantest of men literally go down, and post-match Terry Gordy winds up blinding Andre with powder. And then you wonder if it's baby powder, baby Huey. But I never put two and two together until just now. But Gordy going to blind Andre with the powder, and then Snuka and Gordy double teaming Michael Hayes. But of all the people, it's Kevin Von Erich out to make the save. Kevin Von Erich helping Hayes, aiding him and running off the heels.
Kevin Von Erich, truth, justice in the American way. He's the Georgia version of Superman right now.
Well, I'll take your word on that. But it's kind of an interesting way to play out. Obviously, if you don't see something coming out of a story like that, then I don't know what to tell you. Obviously, it's very odd. You look at all the guys up and down the card, and Kevin Von Erich, the one to make the save for Michael Hayes here and run off the bad guys, so to speak, before they could do permanent damage to one purely sexy. And of course, Andre the Giant going to clean out those eyes and live to fight another day as well. As that concludes this Omni card, so we're going to move on to the next day, a doubleheader on Sunday, August the 30th, first in Huntington, West Virginia, at the Memorial Fieldhouse. Matches see Mike Sharpe battle George Wells to a draw, Wrestling 2 over David Sierra, Kevin Von Erich again defeating Brian St. John. It's Steve-O over Bruiser Brody on a countout, Andre the Giant over Superfly Jimmy Snuka on a disqualification. Fun match there. And in the main event, it's Michael Hayes and Tommy Rich over Terry Gordy and the Superstar.
A very, very solid card right there.
Yeah.
And you even got Andre on a house show.
True. Yeah. And Brody's here. He's still riding around with everybody here. And yeah, it's a fun card.
Yeah, it's not even Columbus, Ohio. I mean, that's where if Brody or Andre are going to do house shows, that's usually where they showed up.
And hey, even Brody doing a job for Steve-O, albeit on a count out, but Brody, he's not long for the territory right now. He's going to kind of move back away from Georgia here. And so he does the right thing here. Believe it or not, Bruiser Brody taking a count out loss to Mr. Personality.
Brody recognized greatness.
Is that what it was?
Aside. That's what it was.
Stepped in something, all right.
Mr. Personality could get over again.
Well, I think he was on his best behavior because he wanted the payday for later that evening. Also Sunday, August 30th, Columbus, Ohio at the Ohio Center. In the main event, we'll get to that in just a moment. But first, the undercard, Steve-O over David Sierra, Wrestling 2 defeating Brian St. John, Kevin Von Erich over Iron Mike Sharpe. It's the Masked Superstar, national champion defeating George Wells. Tag team action once again, Hayes and Tommy Rich defeating Gordy and Snuka. And in the main event this time around, no count out here, guys. It's Andre the Giant defeating Bruiser Brody.
Yeah, now we're talking. That is main event personified right there, Andre and Brody. That would have been a hell of a match to see.
I really wish we could have got an attendance for this show because I'm very curious what that would have brought to the table there. Brody and Andre in the main event in Columbus, Ohio.
Brody was going to shove him in the casket there.
That's what he was going to fold them up and put them both in the casket. Didn't really work out.
Him and Cannon.
I don't know if he got Bundy in there or not. We'll have to go back and try to find some footage, see if it exists somewhere. But yeah, it's a fun little weekend for Brody, but I could be mistaken, but I do believe this is going to be it for Brody, though, this night here in Columbus. Yeah,
I think you're right. I don't think, at least as far as television is concerned, I don't think we see Brody again till, 83?
Well, we're going to do some rapid fire results here for this week because we've got so much to get into on this next couple pieces of TV. So if anything sticks out to you, keep it in your mind for a second, Jamie, and we'll come back to it in just a moment. We got 4 cards to look at real quick, guys, including August 31st, Augusta, Georgia, Bell Auditorium, French Angel over Rick Ferreira, Bruno Jr. going to a draw with Professor Sonoda, Wrestling 2 and Steve-O back together again over Brian St. John and David Sierra, Tommy Rich battling to a no contest with the Superstar, and it's Michael Hayes over Jimmy Snuka in the main event in Augusta as we continue on September 1st, Macon, Georgia at the Coliseum. Once again, Bruno Jr. and Sonoda to a draw, Steve-O over Rick Ferreira, George Wells defeating Mike Sharpe. It's the Superstar. Oh, rekindling an old feud. I love this one. Superstar over Mr. Wrestling 2. And then from there, main event, Tommy Rich and Michael Hayes over the tag team champions, Snuka and Gordy. And it looks like the baby faces keep going over here, so I'm assuming lots of non-title action. And then another piece of business, September 2nd, Columbus, Georgia this time, Memorial Auditorium, Bruno Jr. over David Sierra, Brian St. John scoring a win, finally, over Rick Ferreira. It's George Wells and Steve-O defeating Mike Sharpe and Professor Sonoda. And then Georgia champion Tommy Rich going to a double disqualification with national champion, the Superstar. And we're going to hear more about this on the upcoming TV, but this is supposedly where Superstar injured Tommy Rich's hand as we go on to the main event here in Columbus. Michael Hayes and Wrestling 2 this time over Gordy and Snuka.
Yeah, all very solid house shows. I think Rick Ferreira is now my new upper-level enhancement favorite.
Good. I think he offered a lot, say, 10 years prior to this. I think he really did. He was more muscular. He was kind of obviously short and stocky, but he certainly knew his way around the ring, and I always enjoyed watching him. He went and worked for Bill Watts after this. Briefly here, he's going to be leaving for the Mid-South Territory. He'll work there for a while and kind of parlay his way into a referee for Watts, at least for the short term in 1982. So we're on the back end of Ferreira's career here, but it is fun. He's been very solid in the ring.
Yeah, and overall, I hate to call them enhancement because they're not on television. The lower card guys, very solid in Georgia right now. They got a good group going, a good group for Bruno Sammartino to learn from.
Absolutely. You got a good point there. And obviously veterans like Ferreira, but also David Sierra, who's, been in the business a lot less time, but he's certainly a capable hand as well. So they're really sticking Bruno Jr. in there. He's really honing his craft. I'm sure Papa Bruno was proud at this point in time anyway.
Yeah, even though he was never acknowledged as a world heavyweight champion. That's another story, another day.
Well, that's what
Gordon wasn't going to give him any credit.
Well, we got one more show. I don't really have results for it, but I wanted to point this out, guys. September 3rd, Waycross, Georgia at the City Auditorium. Featured, obviously, undercard matches, but the main event, a feature matchup, is a 10-man Russian roulette battle royal, including the likes of Steve-O, George Wells, Bruno Jr., Mike Sharpe, French Angel, David Sierra, Superstar, Wrestling 2, Michael Hayes, and Terry Gordy. Could have been some fun stuff there in the Final Four.
I mean, but what is a 10-man Russian roulette battle royal? Are there special rules?
I was going to ask you what a Russian roulette battle royal was, and I wondered that years ago, and I Googled it, and I did some research, and I found out, and it's been years, Jamie, so I totally forgot.
I wonder if it's maybe a Royal Rumble type deal, and that maybe that was the entire show.
No, there were more matches. I just kind of deleted that on the notes. Yeah, there were undercard matches as well. So,
yeah, I've never heard that terminology used before.
I think we'll figure it out because I remember looking it up before. I've seen that Russian roulette battle royal used in the past, so I'm sure it won't take too much digging, and we'll get to the bottom of that, and we'll talk about it on the next episode at the top of the show. As before we get back to TV, Friday night, a couple of shows here, Gainesville, Georgia, at the Georgia Mountain Center, also in Pavo, or Pavo, Georgia. I'm not familiar with that city, at the high school. Both taking place September 4th. I don't have the cards, and therefore I don't have the results, but I like to keep everybody abreast of where the GCW territory was headed next. As we head off now, Jammie, for our first episode of Georgia Championship Wrestling this week, heading off to September 5th, 1981. All right, and away we go. More Georgia wrestling action here in WTBS Studios. Your host, as always, Mr. Gordon Soley. And this week, Jammie, we are back to the 605, and it's here to stay. Well, most of the time anyway.
Until they decide to play games with college football or the Atlanta Braves and just tick me off again. But 605, let's do it.
I was setting you up, man. I was waiting for the rant. So,
and you're going to get a rant when we get done the first of the 2 hours. You're going to get a rant.
I love it. All right. Yeah, I already know where we're going with that, and I love it. So another special reminder at the top of the show, too. Everybody send in your postcards, and postcards only. Voting for your favorite wrestler here. Contest's going to end in 2 weeks. The winner will then be announced right here on TV. Can't wait to see who that is. Now, do the math, guys. In 2 weeks, that means it won't be on this episode of Regional Wrestling, but next time, we'll have a winner.
And I have a big prediction. Who's going to win that?
Well, so does Grumpy Grandpa, too.
Exactly. He's America's favorite grandpa. Everybody loves Mr. Wrestling Grumpy number 2.
Well, let's see what we have for action here as we kick off this program. It's Steve-O teaming with Bruno Sammartino Jr., taking on the team of David Sierra and Ron Haven. Not familiar with him, as I'll call him David Sammartino here. I do that interchangeably, guys. By now, you should know that. He appears to be getting, I wrote, a lot thicker in the upper body in quick fashion. Ico Pro, you've got to want it.
Yeah, I'll go along with that. We don't have a lot of guys here that are really have gone to the Superstar Billy Graham Pharmacy.
I don't think he's, David, I don't think he's getting anywhere near that either, but he's just really bulking up. I mean, it may very well not be Ico Pro. It could just be, working out. Either way, though, he's getting very bulky, and it's become very noticeable, at least to me in the last couple of weeks. As solid wrestling, though, between Sammartino and Sierra to begin with. Then it is Mr. Personality and working the arm of Haven as he and Sammartino taking turns working him over. Steve-O then with a full Nelson. That's an odd choice of a move from Olsenowski. But that doesn't seem to work as he's backed into the heel corner. Sierra tagging back in for some fun back and forth once again. Steve-O and Sierra. Very criminally underrated was Sierra in the ring. Finally, Bruno Jr. with a body slam and a leg drop, dude, taking Haven down to the mat. As Haven, though, doesn't exactly know how to take a backdrop to follow up by Sammartino. So it's Steve-O off the top rope with a double chop thingy or something. Going to get the win in 5 minutes and 39 seconds. Not the most spectacular of finishes.
Well, Steve-O showed off his full repertoire in this match.
He ran out of moves.
All that working with Iron Mike Sharpe, he learned how to do the full Nelson. Of course, he didn't swing him like Kempatera, but he used the full Nelson, used it to his advantage. See, Mr. Personality is not just personality. He's a mind. He's the greatest mind in wrestling at this time. And look, each week he has a new tag team partner. He's learning from all these people. He's using them all.
Used it to his advantage? He got driven back into the job guy corner, Jammie, but we'll tell your version of the story. That's totally fine, because up next, guys, we go off now. Gordon Soley standing by with the NWA World Heavyweight Champion, the Mac and Dream, baby, Dusty Rhodes.
I want to take a moment now. It's a real pleasure and a privilege to welcome back to Georgia Championship Wrestling the World Heavyweight Wrestling Champion, the man who won the title right here in Atlanta, Georgia, Dusty Rhodes. Welcome back, Dusty.
God, hold this just a minute. You want a little bit go? I got something to say. Let me have this thing. I've been all over the country, and I've been missing 17, because Dusty Rhodes is the scene on 17. Everybody be talking jive when I was gone. They be saying that they doing that. Do you know what fashionable means? Do you know what fashionable means? Fashionable means that's somebody that starts a trend. Well, I was bad before it was fashionable. I was the American dream before it was fashionable. I was the greatest lover in the world before it was fashionable. And I am the greatest wrestler in the world now because it's fashionable. Now, the World's Heavyweight title belongs to the American dream, Dusty Rhodes. You know, they say, you know, Blue Eyed Soul, where did you get it from? You got to be born with it, Jack. You just can't put on a pair of shoes and say you got soul. I'm going to go on record right now telling everybody, from Jimmy Snuka to Tommy Rich, all the way down to Nature Boy Ric Flair. If he wants some of me, anywhere, anytime, all they got to do is call my Aunt Nanny. She stay right here in Atlanta, because I'm over there eating some cornbread, getting down with my main squeeze, Jack. And I'll be ready. I'll be ready for Freddie. Be ready for action. Let me tell you something too, Harley Race. If you want it one more time, I don't want to go to St. Louis. I don't want to go to Chicago. I don't want to go to Philadelphia. I don't want to go to Louisiana. I don't want to go to Texas. I want to whip your butt right here in Georgia one more time. You understand? That's all the dream got to say right now. I'm going to be back in a minute with a big victory, Jack.
There you have it. The comments from the World Heavyweight Wrestling Champion, the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes.
So the dream is the scene on 17, says Dusty here. He won the NWA title here in Atlanta, and he's right back at you guys, right here in the Peach State. So much talent, so many challengers, says the dream here in Georgia. He's back to defend his title against them all.
How couldn't you love Dusty? I mean, very seriously. How couldn't you love Dusty at this time? Forget about what you know about him personally.
Right.
When he came on the screen, the TV just lit up. And it was real easy to get behind him. Now, during this interview, I don't know if you caught it, but I caught it. You know, he hands the belt to Gordon.
Uh-huh.
And Gordon totally disrespects the NWA belt and holds it upside down.
Wow. Okay. No, I didn't catch that. But, you know, Gordon might have been on a binge that morning. So, I mean, the fact that
well, him and Dusty might have celebrated before the show ever got going. So it's very possible.
Brother. Well, we're not done yet, guys. There's another promo here. Gordon Soley talking with the Georgia Tag Team Champions, Terry Gordy and Superfly Snuka. And these guys sound like they're already looking ahead. They've gotten past the Giant. Gordy says there's no way on God's green earth, sounds like a Harley Race promo, that Michael Hayes and Kevin Von Erich will take a win over them. So they're already looking ahead to the potential future challenge of Von Erich now, along with Michael Hayes. I guess they're going to let Snuka do the talking in the ring. He didn't speak here. It was all Gordy.
Aren't we better off that it was all Gordy?
I mean, just saying.
He still doesn't know if he's a face or heel yet. But the end of that last match with Andre and now it all makes sense why Kevin came in to make the save and clear the ring.
Right.
They're setting up for Kevin to now be Michael Hayes' partner.
Yeah, they were quick to pivot there. You know, they set up basically the next partner. They're not just giving Hayes partners, hey, well, it's this guy this time, it's this guy that time. They're giving reason, they're giving cause for it. So it's not just like, oh, well, Michael Hayes found this guy this week. No, Kevin Von Erich made the save. He helped Michael Hayes, and now apparently they're going to form a team at least for one night. We'll have to wait and see how that plays out when we get to the OMNI, guys. Spoiler alert there. But we go to the ring. We heard from the champions, and now we're going to see them in action. Superfly Snuka, Terry Gordy taking on Ken Hall, and the grizzled veteran Abe Jacobs. As the champions having issues with the vet Jacobs early on, but they do manage to take control as Snuka apparently has a degree in physical education. I wrote, could you imagine the Superfly as your gym teacher? Brother.
Yeah, see, he went to college.
Yeah, he went to Tech High and Hawaii State College. Is this
Vince
an actual
McMahon lied
fact?
to us. Vince McMahon lied to us a few years later.
Imagine that. A few years later.
Yeah, 1 year later. He was a highly educated man. Again, a gym teacher. Not everybody, just anybody can be a gym teacher, right?
Well, that's what I was going to say. He was a phys ed guy, right? So he got a degree in physical education, not math. So it took him a while to realize that Lou Albano was stealing from him.
Well, that's very true. But the highlight of this match was Abe Jacobs wasn't taking any shit in the beginning of this match. Pardon my French.
No, he'd been around a little over, 20 plus years, I do believe at this point.
It was very good of Gordy and Snuka to give in to Jacobs at that point.
Yeah.
Instead of just treating him like the jobber next door.
Right, absolutely. Totally agree. I didn't see it coming, but, I respected it because it looked snug and it looked real and good for The heels here showing a little respect to Abe Jacobs, who paved the way for this era here of the 1980s stars, as Gordy going to eventually miss a charge on Jacobs, Ken Hall tagging back in, but he eats a Terry Gordy Samoan drop and a suplex, setting up the Superfly splash, and the heels going to score the win, 4 minutes and 19 seconds. Solid squash match here from the champs.
Oh, yeah, and that Samoan drop may have been better than an Alpha Sika Samoan drop.
It was good.
That was impactful, and then instead of Snuka merely falling on top of Hall with the splash, he actually got some leaping distance on this one.
Oh, yeah, there's some good ones here. We might see another one before we're done, actually, with this episode. As we go off now, Gordon Solie standing by with the still Georgia heavyweight champion, the Wildfire, Tommy Rich. Rich with his hand taped up here, says Superstar messed up his hand, brother, back in Wednesday in Columbus, Georgia. But they have a return match now scheduled next week at the Omni. But this time, both titles will be on the line.
Tommy finally got what he wants. Title for title.
And we'll continue to hear both of these guys talk about that back and forth, so I won't touch too much on it here, as we'll continue to follow up as these two episodes play out. But right now, we go off to a VTR from the AWA, Vern Gagne's territory, back in the TV studio. It's Ray the Crippler Stevens taking on the veteran Rick Hunter. I can't get away from that guy. He's everywhere, even in WWF 1988. But we get fake generic crowd noise in order for Gordon Solie to do the voiceover here in a 2 out of 3 fall squash match. My God, Vern, talk about stretching things out here. It's fall number 1. Going to see Rick Hunter miss a charge in the corner. Ray Stevens make a quick and easy win, 2.5 minutes. And then the second fall, 2 straight falls, Stevens gets the win again with his patented pile driver for the final pinfall of the matchup. Got about 5 minutes of action total, I believe.
The question is why Ole wasted almost 10 minutes of action to introduce Ray Stevens on videotape.
Yeah, that's a good question.
I mean, for what Stevens is going to become here in Georgia, he didn't need 10-minute debut. I mean,
no,
I
totally.
guess Ray...
And it's 1980s Ray Stevens period. I'm not trying to look past his career. If this is 10 years earlier, you take the time to build up Ray Stevens, but based on, like you said, what they're going to do with him here, I don't understand it either.
No, and at least Gordon says Ray has been in Georgia before, he's returning. But Gordon also had great insight during this, I think in the second fall of this match, where Hunter quickly rolls over to his stomach and Gordon says, getting on your stomach is the best defense you can have sometimes. Very astute comment by Gordon.
Totally missed that, but yeah, we'll leave it there. As you don't want to choke on your own vomit sometimes, right? As we learn.
You know what? Maybe Gordon knows from experience.
At this point in the show, though, we do learn just signed for later in hour 2. It's going to be Superfly Snuka back in the ring taking on Kevin Von Erich 1-on-1. And after what just happened at the Omni, I'm sure Snuka looking for a little revenge. And Kevin can't wait to get his hands on one of the men that keep interrupting his interviews.
I can't wait to see this one because this is the one we've all been waiting for. It's legendary.
Well, we'll definitely be getting there very, very shortly, guys. As we continue on, it's Dusty Rhodes, the American Dream, the NWA champion, gracing us with his presence in the ring, taking on Bobby Garrett. As Gordon Solie on commentary calls Dusty a self-disciplined man who doesn't like exterior regimen, which is why he chose pro wrestling. It's the last of the rugged type sports, so says Gordon.
Well, that's because, Dusty couldn't go play baseball and tell them he's going to hit a home run every time.
Right.
So he's in the right athletic participation sport for him.
Gordon, the way he worded that, it was kind of confusing, but when you break it down, it's like, okay, I'll go along with that. Then he totally changes my opinion on the whole entire situation as he refers to Dusty as deceptively large. I wrote, I don't know about that. I don't know if there's anything deceiving about Dusty's size.
Well, he was trying to protect himself for when Dusty watched the tape back over.
Well, that's very well could be. As
you got to love Gordon, though. You just got to love him.
Absolutely.
All his comments. God bless the guy. He was superb.
Yeah, I mean, he's pulled all this shit out of his ass in one match. I mean, it's great. Is Dusty going to work the arm here of Garrett, then the leg, and then a slam on the floor for good measure, but back in the ring, it's the big elbow, baby, Going to give Dusty the win, 3 minutes and 37 seconds. A squash win here by the world champion on TV. You don't get that every week.
No, and a matter of fact, if he had stayed around as NWA champion for a little bit longer, they would have probably replayed that match about 20 times between then and 1989.
Very possible. 89. As we head back to Gordon right now, he's standing by with the national heavyweight champion. We're going to hear from the superstar.
Perhaps one of the most erudite competitors in professional wrestling today is the national heavyweight champion, a man with his master's degree, the superstar. And I might just point out that thus far he has held on to that national heavyweight championship.
You know, Gordon, there's a lot of individuals. I see that Dusty Rhodes has come out of the closet. He's back in this area. He's supposedly going to defend his belt. I don't know exactly when. Tommy Rich is still spouting off about how people mistreat him and people are out after him and they're going to try to hurt him. And then you got Mr. Wrestling number 2. He's mad at everybody like he always is. And then all these individuals seem to be concerned about when, where I'm going to put up my championship belt. It's not for them to ask, as well as it's not for you to ask. I'm the champion, just like Dusty Rhodes is the world's heavyweight champion, and Tommy Rich at the present time is the Georgia heavyweight champion, and Snuka and Gordy are the tag team champions.
Well, certainly there's no questioning or denying the comments you've made. Everybody does have 30 days in which to defend their title. However, your title does go on the line September 12th at the Omni. Your title against Tommy Wildfire Rich's Georgia title.
It's going to start right here in Carrollton this evening. I'm going to carry it over to Marietta tomorrow night. And next Saturday, Tommy Rich, you have forced me into a corner. You have forced me to put up this championship belt. Now, you have been a very, very lucky man, but your luck is about to run out. Next Saturday, right here in the Omni, I don't normally go out on a limb. I don't normally make predictions, Tommy Rich. But I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to tell those 4 or 5 fans that you have, next Saturday evening, right here in Atlanta, Georgia, in the Omni, I am going to walk out with this championship belt, and I am going to walk out with your championship belt. There's not going to be any bones about it, and there won't be any excuses Saturday night.
So Masked Superstar says Tommy Rich has been a lucky man up until now, Jamie. Normally the superstar, he doesn't make predictions, but next Saturday at the Omni, he's going to walk in with 1 belt and walk out with 2, both the national title and Tommy Rich's Georgia heavyweight belt.
The superstar just exudes confidence, plus with that just brilliant interview type style.
Yeah.
I mean, at the time, I kind of felt that he was, the way they were pushing it, he was going to wind up taking both belts, but we'll find out.
Everything that he says, so intelligent, so matter-of-factly, you just believe it, whether he's a heel, a face, whatever the case may be, and he was usually a heel. Don't get me wrong there, but I always love the superstar promos. I love the superstar character. One of the first, like you, I think you said the same thing. One of the first heels I really got behind.
Yeah, he was one of the first ones I did too. Of course, Michael Hayes was first, and then Piper's going to be around shortly. But then, Superstar won me over.
Very good, very good. We head back to the ring tag team action. We heard Kevin Von Erich's scheduled to wrestle in the second hour, but he's also here in the first hour. And that was pretty common. You guys have probably noticed that by now, that a lot of the wrestlers, especially earlier in the year, would work both hours because you had to fill out both. They were kind of like 2 separate episodes, so to speak. And it was Kevin Von Erich here teaming with Mr. Wrestling 2. We've seen a lot of that team as of late, taking on the team of Professor Sonoda and Tony Russo. And I hate to call Sonoda an enhancement talent, but that's kind of the way he's been treated here. But wow, what a team. If these guys are enhancement talent, sign me up against them every day of the week, Russo and Sonoda.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But the big question here is, if Kevin Von Erich is going to be teaming up for the tag team title match next week, shouldn't he be teaming with his partner to get used to each other?
Good question.
Why is he teaming with Grumpy 2? Unless he feels sorry for 2 and wants to make the old man feel good.
Well, it is Kevin Von Erich. You're trying to figure out what he's doing.
He's my new Superman. I love Kevin Von Erich.
Yeah, well, that's cool. Let's see what he can do for you here in this match and in hour number 2.
He's my number 3. Michael's number 1. Mr. Personality's number 2.
Oh my God.
Kevin Von Erich is number 3.
Where does Mike Sharpe fit into all of that?
Mike Sharpe has dropped to number 4 at this point. And I tell you, I still love the guy. But once he gets the arm brace, he's going to shoot right back up in the ranks.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Well, fair enough. So I really, like I said, I was really digging the enhancement side of this matchup, so I was expecting some fun competition. But this was a tag clinic from the babyface side, tagging in and out in full control of the matchup. Von Erich going to go from a top wrist lock at one point straight into a flying head scissors, and then wrestling 2 in and delivers something similar. I guess 2 trying to play anything you can do, Kevin, I can do kind of okay.
There's no way 2's letting anybody outshine him if he can help it.
So Kevin Von Erich back in. Great spot here. Going to deliver a monkey flip, but tagging to 2 at the same time as he delivers the move. And then Russo getting up from the monkey flip right into the $1 million knee lift of the Masked Man. And the babyface is going over 5 minutes and 44 seconds. Another great TV squash.
Now, wouldn't it have made more sense for Kevin to take the win if you have a tag team title match coming up?
You got a lot of logic all of a sudden here. You're really on this Kevin Von Erich train.
Like I just said, Grumpy 2's right up there at the top too, but
yeah,
he should be getting a pinfall here. But 2's got nothing else going on except for winning TV matches. So I guess we give it to the old man.
Well, we're going to go back to your number 1 now. Gordon Soley back at the interview area talking with Michael Pureless Sexy Hayes.
And there you hear it, the music of the fabulous Freebird. And that, of course, means the appearance of Michael Hayes. Michael Hayes approaching the podium at this time, and there you see him. The man who was a tag team partner with the 8th wonder of the world, Andre the Giant. And we're going to be getting into detail as to what happened during that match when Andre the Giant and Michael Hayes collided with Jimmy Superfly, Snuka, and Terry Gordy. But first of all, I would imagine it's quite a change for you to come out here and to hear the audience participating in tremendous support of you, particularly since your obvious change in philosophy regarding this sport.
What change in philosophy? I ain't changed nothing. I don't plan to change nothing. When you're born something, you stay something, and I'm damn proud of it.
Well,
but I would say that it is nice to have people share the same point of view. But everybody's been writing in about what happened in the Omni. Let's show them just exactly what happened in the Omni.
All right, I'd like to point out, of course, that this was indeed a special challenge, and Michael Hayes acquired the services of the 8th wonder of the world, 7 feet 4 inches tall, 480 pounds, Andre the Giant.
And drank a lot of whiskey.
Well, we don't need to get into that, but let's go to that match right now.
That's what I was happy about. Kevin Von Erich come and help the situation, knowing how dangerous it can be getting involved with these men. And I wouldn't have held anything against anybody for not getting involved. But let me tell you this, Gordy and Snuka, I don't care how much you whoop on this body, every time that the match is over, you're going to see me get up and walk out of that ring. Because you have done a lot of things to me lately, 2-on-1. Now, earlier in the week, they suplexed me on a cement floor, but I got up and walked out. And then earlier, you see what they did right here, but I got up and walked out. And that's making you nervous because you're throwing everything you got. And I'm going to keep on walking and keep on talking until I get a hold of you and do what I want to do. Take it to the bank, Daddy.
Ooh, some heavy comments indeed from one very irate Freebird, Michael Hayes. Let's turn it to our ring announcer.
So we go back to the Omni, August the 29th. We get a VTR, the matchup. We talked about it, Gordy and Snuka versus Hayes and Andre. We already talked about that cool finish with Andre helping Hayes, preventing him from going over the top rope. Hayes pinning Snuka, the heels attacking Hayes and Andre post the match. Kevin Von Erich making the save. We hear from Michael here. He mentions earlier this week also that Gordy and Snuka also supleed him on the cement floor somewhere. But he's still walking and talking, Jamie. He's going to do what he wants, Fantasia style. I wrote, cocaine's a hell of a drug.
Well, that's probably what Terry Gordy threw in his face, and Michael doesn't remember much of the match after that.
What a waste. What are you doing, Terry?
Terry couldn't find a powder and pulled the wrong bag out of his.
Is that why Michael's face was face down on the mat for that entire beatdown? Okay.
He wasn't going to waste, you know what? Once he tasted it, he wasn't going to waste it.
So we go off back to the ring for tag team action here. This is fun. George Wells going to team with Steve-O, taking on the team of Rick Ferreira, and the ring announcer refers to his partner as Tommy Hawk Thompson. Now, in reality, he is Hank Tomahawk Thompson, which Gordon corrects, but I just love how many of these Southern announcers call Tomahawks Tommy Hawks. It's great old school stuff. It's what my grandpa called it.
And that was Freddie Miller who messed that one up.
Was it Freddie? Okay, I thought it was the other announcer they have down there sometimes. I'm sorry.
I thought it was
Freddie. It could have been Freddie. It could have easily been Freddie.
I caught that also. I have that in my notes about him calling him Tommy Hawk Thompson. Yes. I thought it was Freddie. I could be wrong.
So it's Hank Tomahawk Thompson to get everything situated here properly. But I thought that was funny because I remember Bob Caudle always calling him Tommy Hawk Chops. Recently, I do the regional wrestling with Gene Jackson and we cover Memphis. And Tommy Gilbert's on there under a mask as Mr. Wrestling. But Lance and Dave can't get into the character and they're constantly referring to him as Tommy, even though he's a masked wrestler. And at one point, God bless Dave Brown for trying to cover it up. There was Joe Lightfoot was in the match and he had a tomahawk on his trunks. So when he said Tommy shoots him off, he said, I was referring to the Tommy Hawk on his trunks. So I said, good cover up, Dave, but it didn't help that they kept calling him Gilbert for the remainder of the show, but that's another show.
Yeah, I was getting the Memphis tapes at that time, and yeah, I remember that quite fondly. I mean, body type, you knew who it was.
Right.
So I guess Lance just couldn't help himself.
Lance or Dave, yeah, they were both really deep into the Gilbert comments. At one point, Eddie's helping Mr. Wrestling beat down, Lightfoot or whatever, and Lance Russell busts out, and then the Gilberts are in there. It's like, wow, Lance, come on, man. But we'll get back into Georgia, guys. We take shots at Georgia and some of this stuff.
Sure. I mean, Memphis back in that time was just wild stuff.
Sure.
I mean,
yeah.
You never knew what you were getting week to week. It made Georgia look tame.
It sure did. It sure did.
Tame or classy.
Well, I don't know. I've never heard Memphis called classy before. That's new. Oh, Georgia.
I mean, Georgia look classy.
That is possible. That's very possible here.
Made Georgia look like Florida in some of the stuff they did.
Could have been. George Wells, Steve-O here taking on Ferreira and Tomahawk Thompson. I should mention Nick Patrick, the referee, here in hour number 1, as Gordon Soley going to note that Ferreira is the master of the Boston Crab due to his compact muscles and stature, i.e., he's short.
Oh, what a body, though. That guy's a Greek god.
Fun little back and forth here by Ferreira and Steve-O. Then in comes old Tomahawk, who does absolutely nothing. As George Wells going to clear house. Looks like they're going into the finish, but then they don't. As Ferreira just kicking out of everything the baby faces are delivering here. But finally, Tomahawk back in, and he kicks Wells right in the face. Looked pretty stiff there. Wells trying a backdrop and eats a kick to the face. As I wrote in my notes, this match is going on entirely too long. Steve-O then going to go old school with his old airplane spin. Beat the Stomper with that for the national title, by the way. And then the sleeper hold, which he brought back from Japan. So using 2 finishes, and nobody's getting up from that, Jammie. So even Steve-O looking disgusted at Tomahawk Thompson's quote-unquote skills here as this match goes nearly 8 minutes.
You know what it is? Steve realizes he's almost coming up on a year in Georgia, and his time may be just about being up. So he is auditioning big time. He's hoping Eddie Graham takes him down to Georgia or Bill Watts takes him into Mid-South, where he can make some real money.
Yeah, I mean, this is national TV. You're definitely going to be able to show yourself here to all the other promoters. Definitely. Somebody, Ole, must have told George Wells not to do all that cool shit that we've seen him do the last few weeks because he did none of it here this week.
No, he didn't even do the diving shoulder block, which usually is stiff and
right.
It looks like it hurts.
You know all that cool shit that they popped for last week? Yeah, don't do any of that. We'll see how long that lasts.
Kind of like Bruce Reed on the way out.
Well, we already heard from him once, but he's back. It's take number 2 now. Gordon Soley once again standing by with the world champion, Dusty Rhodes.
A pleasure to have back with me right now the world heavyweight champion, Dusty Rhodes. And since winning that title on June 21st here in Atlanta, you've taken up the contract of the world champion all over the world.
God, I know not only took up the contract of the World Heavyweight Champion when I became World Heavyweight Champion was, I went to the NWA and I say I want to go to every town there is. I want no time off. I want to be able to go to every major city, every little town, every place there is, so they can see Dusty Rhodes as World Heavyweight Champion. And I have maybe bit off sometimes a little more than I chew because I've been seriously injured and the pain has been real hard for the dream. But the main thing is the gold belongs to Dusty Rhodes, the American Dream. And talking about Ric Flair's and talking about all the fever and the anger, there's heavy fever in the town, you understand? In the OMNI, in Atlanta, Georgia, you know, the OMNI coming on right now, Harley race. I just got out the cab and I say, hey, cab driver, drive down 17th Street. I say the dream is the cream of 17. He say, Dust, tell me the truth. He say, Harley race wants one more shot. He wants one more time. He wants one more chance at whatever he's got to do for it. Well, the OMNI, he's going to get it. Dusty Rhodes, Harley race, the main event. The last time Harley race, if I'm going to lose it, I damn sure want to lose it here because I won it here. And I took it here. And there's no way Harley race is going to come in and beat Dusty Rhodes for the world's heavyweight title. Because just like Mr. Rock and Roll said, Little Richard, he say, I was washing dishes at the Greyhound bus station in Macon, Georgia. Then I made Tutti Frutti. Good God, I miss Molly and the Lord bless my soul. Well, I was digging ditches in Austin, Texas. Then I beat Terry Funk and Harley race, and the Lord bless my soul. So if you're going to beat me in Atlanta, Georgia, you better bring it with you, Jack, or I ain't going to play with you.
There you have it. World Heavyweight Champion Dusty Rhodes. He'll be defending that title. It will be Saturday, September 12th, 1981, in the OMNI here in Atlanta. Harley Race trying to regain the title for an unprecedented 7th time. Will he do it? We'll find out.
So it's Dusty Rhodes again defending his title against the former champion, 6-time champion, Harley Race. Back to where it all started. The final dance happens in 1 week's time at the OMNI. So basically, this is Harley's last shot, is what they're saying.
And with us knowing where this is all going, it really makes sense to have Dusty Harley 2 at this point.
Yeah, we've got another promo here after the American Dream. Good to hear him more than once on the same show. But Gordon going to give some other guys some equal opportunity here. We're going to hear from a trio now of talent, Wrestling 2, George Wells, and Steve-O.
As you know, of course, for the past several weeks, we've been talking about and inviting you to write in and vote for your favorite wrestler. And one man who obviously leads the pack at all times in popularity is a gentleman to my left, Mr. Wrestling 2, and how are things going for you?
Well, thank you very much, Gordon, but much to my surprise, it's kind of evening out a little bit. You know, Rich and Steve-O and Bon Erich have kind of come up in the risings there, and it kind of shocks me. But I've got confidence in my fans and my people out there. I know I'm going to walk out of here a winner and take that beautiful trophy home with me because it only can look good in one place, and that's on my mantelpiece.
Oh. Okay, that's the comments from Wrestling 2, and I want to talk now to Steve-O and George Wells. Gentlemen, an outstanding tag team match, and the two of you really have your teamwork down.
Yeah, we've been working together for the last couple of months now, trying to get our timing down and get our matches together for these Snuka and Gordy and them. I put on the extra 20 pounds so I can contend with this nasty-faced Gordy and this so-called Superfly. So I'm looking for good things between Steve and I in the future.
Good combination. Speed, talent, ability, the whole thing.
Well, there's one important thing there, too, Gordon. You got to have the will, desire, and know how to win. And it's one thing, like Mr. Wrestling number 2 has been around a long time. He's won a lot of matches. With a man like this around here to give you a good word every now and then, it's easy to get that desire to win.
Well, certainly no question about the fact that all three of these men have that desire to win. And by the way, I know, as Mr. Wrestling 2 said just a moment ago, you, Tommy Wildfire, Rich, and several others are sort of catching up with a man who a lot of people thought was a shoo-in to win that most popular contest.
Well, you know, it's a great thing to have the fans vote you for being most popular and have them cheer you. And, Gordon, if I can just keep it going like I'm doing right now, all will be well.
Thank you so very much. Wrestling 2, Steve-O and George Wells.
Well, Jamie, to Mr. Wrestling's surprise, the votes have evened out just a bit. It shocked him.
Oh, no.
He was shocked. Unbelievable. But he has confidence because the trophy can only look good on his mantelpiece. Even Gordon there, if you guys listened closely, okay. So even Gordon kind of questioning wrestling too at this point.
Yeah, 2 even went out and bought a little mask so he could put it on top of the wrestler.
Well, wouldn't that be cool?
On his mantelpiece.
He put a little miniature mask on his trophy. Now that would be awesome. If he walked around, turned heel and carried that, I mean, he would be my favorite wrestler.
In real life, don't you see him doing something like that? Sitting on the couch with his wife on a Saturday night after he's retired and looking up and
over the fireplace. And
remember when you wrestled Terry Funk at Madison Square Garden? No, hon. I remember when I won that trophy right there. I was the most popular wrestler. I even put a mask on him.
Brother, as Gordon Soley also there putting over the tag team of George Wells and Steve O. Wells, noticeably, he's putting on weight too, but I talked about David Sammartino kind of getting bulked up. Now, he wasn't cut, but George Wells, he's looking a little gassed here.
He might have been on the special vitamins.
I think if I was going to say one of them it had to be George Wells, but then again, maybe if they're riding buddies, who knows what's going on there.
It's such a shame because he had the body, he had the moves, and what's he go to, like San Francisco after this, I think we discussed?
Ooh, if he goes to San Francisco in 81, that's a bad place to be.
I remember being in San Francisco, but wherever he goes after this, we really don't see him again until he becomes Master G.
Ugh.
In 84, and then he goes into WWF in 85, and that body's all gone by that point, and it's a shame because he could have really been something if the right person had gotten behind him.
Yeah, totally agree, because like you said, at this point in time in 81, there's no reason that he shouldn't have gotten a push somewhere because he was just as good as any of the other African Americans, because let's face it, at the end of the day, there can only be, Tony Atlas said this a million times, there can only be one top African American in a territory. That was just the way they booked back then. So when you saw another one come in, you worried about your spot, unfortunately. Now, they did have Wells and Reed together here for a little bit, but Reed's gone. Wells looks primed and ready for a good push here. And, for everybody who gives Ole whatever nonsense for being grumpy, and there have been, comments and accusations about racism and things, but Ole was not afraid to push an African-American star if it was going to make him green. And I just don't see why they dropped the ball here with Wells, but I've heard over and over, and I don't know if it was happening here in 81, but substance abuse was certainly an issue with him later in his career.
Maybe this was the beginning, the initial seeds of that. Maybe that's why he didn't get the push.
Hanging around with Michael Hayes and Kevin Von Erich. Who the hell knows what he was doing? As here it is, guys. Feature match time, Jamie Ward.
I'll save that for another time.
All right, very well. Feature match time, guys. Kevin Von Erich, as promised, taking on the Superfly. Jimmy Snuka, Terry Gordy out there ringside, back and forth. But we're going to get going here with action. And I got two things I want to talk about at the end of this. Of course, the match, but then something completely different as well. So we'll get into both of those. But first, let's take a look at the action in the ring, shall we? As Von Erich going to work the arm of Snuka early on, but Superfly busting out a kip-up, which was kind of cool. I wrote sort of. It wasn't the most prettiest of kip-ups, but still pretty damn cool. As Snuka keeps escaping all of the arm locks, and Kevin finding ways to regain control. And I wrote here in my notes, this is how you work a body part. You keep it interesting.
Yeah, I mean, this was the perfect match. The way these guys worked, it was really entertaining. And if you're a wrestling purist, this was a wrestling match.
Yeah, this wasn't the opening match at Madison Square Garden where you get a couple of underneath guys that go out there and grab a hold and sit on it, literally sit on it for 10 minutes. Kevin Von Erich was working the arm of Snuka, but he was working the arm of Snuka. It felt like a real competition because what do you do when someone's got a hold of your arm, Jamie? You try to figure out ways to get out of it, and that's what Snuka was doing the entire time. So it felt very realistic to me. And finally, the Superfly going to break free and take over and work himself into a chin lock on Kevin Von Erich. Now, Kevin going to eventually break free himself and fire up, make the big comeback, hits a flying knee into the corner, guys. Picture the Stinger Splash, but with a knee. But not just a knee thrown by Kevin Von Erich. Think about that for a second. Then across the ring, looking for a second flying knee into the corner, but nobody home. Jimmy Snuka out of the way, and he's going to capitalize with a vertical suplex. And then he's Superfly going up top. But can he land it, Jamie? Yes, Superfly splash connects on Kevin Von Erich, and that's going to do it. 1, 2, no! Kevin Von Erich kicks out of the Superfly splash. I wrote, you've got to be shitting me.
Yeah, it came back to me as being that 15-year-old kid sitting on the couch just going absolutely bonkers that Kevin kicked out of that thing. Even my mom jumped up off the couch because I've said before
awesome.
that I very often I watch it with my mom and my dad this Saturday night. And this match, it was just unfreaking believable. After, I started watching wrestling, I think I said in 78. The greatest thing I had seen was Zbyszko and Garea beating the Yukon Lumberjacks for the WWF Tag Team titles. Now, Zbyszko turning on Bruno is before this, but that's kind of like a downer because it's a turn and you got a guy going bad guy. But this was just probably the greatest thing since that tag team title match that I had seen on television. This even took me to the next level of Kevin Von Erich fandom at this point. I mean, you watch this match, and even if wrestling's not real, Kevin Von Erich's freaking real.
Yeah, unbelievable. Nobody saw it coming. Gordon Solie selling it great here. Superfly splash. Kevin Von Erich kicks out. Snuka can't believe it. Gordy at ringside can't believe it. The fans in the crowd here in the studio, they can't believe it. Hell, even I couldn't believe it. And ECW taught us many years later that Tommy Dreamer was the first man to kick out of the Superfly splash. But evidence right here, Paul Heyman, sorry, it proves that Kevin Von Erich, at least in the modern era, I mean, maybe it happened in Portland, who knows, but Kevin Von Erich kicking out of the Superfly splash, and he does it right here on TV. I could see Snuka agreeing to that at a house show. Who's going to go to, who are you going to tell back in those days? But to do it right here, not just on TV, but on cable TV. Amazing. Kevin Von Erich kicking out of the man's finisher.
I'll bet Snuka probably did it on a Mid-Atlantic TV, probably as somebody like Steamboat, maybe Orndorff after they had their thing. Mm-hmm. I can see him having done it before, but yes, on national TV. And Snuka obviously didn't have the big head as he would moving forward.
Yeah, he was super cooperative, clearly. I mean, his entire run here, it's been fun.
Oh, yeah, it didn't seem like he was a problem child at all. And one other comment I'm going to make. Are you insinuating that Paul Heyman would lie?
Well, I mean...
come on, Paul Heyman never told a lie, in his life. Like Paul Heyman never told me a lie or two.
Yeah, well, Tommy Dreamer, I don't know what to tell him, Unfortunately, we see it right here. The proof is in the pudding. It's right there on film footage. Go check it out on youtube.com/wrestling grenade right now, this episode of TV. Do yourselves a favor and watch this match, period. But it is indeed Kevin Von Erich kicking out. And Jimmy Snuka, again, he can't believe it, but he comes right back after Kevin. Not going to let him go. Trying for that Tongan death grip, that claw that he's been using to pin some of his opponents. But he winds up instead in the infamous Iron Claw hold, the famous Von Erich claw, on the Superfly here. And the fans go absolutely bonkers as Terry Gordy finally, he has no option but to rush in and attack, drawing the automatic disqualification. Gordy interfering, attacking Kevin Von Erich. The match goes 10 minutes and 40 seconds.
And we get another minute or two action when Michael Hayes hits the ring, and it's a wild outbreak. I mean, this is, for me, as you can hear, I'm marking out, rewatching this again.
That's great.
40-some years later. I was into it, when I was watching this the other day.
Right.
I was totally into it. I knew what was going to happen. And then you put it on Facebook and X for everybody to watch, and I'm right back into it again. This is television wrestling personified right here.
And this video's been sitting here forever, right? And there's so many people. I mean, it exploded on both Facebook and on X when I posted it. And it was so amazing how many people never saw this, never knew it happened. Not just the fact that he kicked out of the splash, but the two ever wrestled. I mean, it is bizarro world when you think about it on paper, Snuka versus Kevin Von Erich.
And the two have boots on. Everybody's shocked that they're both
that's
wearing
the
boots.
other thing I wanted to talk about before we get through this segment here was it was probably 80-20 in the percentile, if you will, of there was more. The 80 was the people just more worried about the fact that both guys were wrestling in boots. Not so much that he kicked out of the splash or the story that was being told. It was just, holy shit, Snuka and Kevin Von Erich in boots.
Yeah, so many similarities here. I mean, I'm going to guess they knew each other from Snuka's last run in Texas. So that's probably why he had no problem putting Kevin over here. But again, he didn't take a pinfall loss. It does end up being a DQ. So really no harm done to Snuka. He rebuilds himself anyway in the WWF, becomes a legend before he kills somebody, and that's a whole other story for another day.
Yeah, we'll save that for its own episode maybe someday. We'll get back into this. So one last thing on the boots there is I talked to a few people on social media when they were asking about these guys in the boots. I said, Kevin actually wore boots for the first several years of his career from like 77 into the beginning of 82. And if you guys want to do yourselves a favor, it's not on my YouTube, but I know it's out there. It's on the Peacock. There's an interview on Dallas. Kevin explains why he started wrestling barefoot. It's exactly what you would figure. Snuka's a little different. Obviously, people might have seen him wear boots at the end of his career when he was working like Shawn Michaels in the Garden and whatnot in 92. Snuka was getting up there in age. He was protecting his ankles and whatnot, and he is in boots late in his career. But Jimmy, by all accounts, what I could see when he was in the Mid-Atlantic territory, at least during that heel part, I didn't go back and look at the babyface stuff, but I know when he was a heel there under Buddy Rogers, he was wearing boots in 1980 there. And then, of course, he comes over to Georgia in 81 and he's wearing boots. So at least for a couple years here, he's in boots. I don't know if there's a reason for that. It's just because he's a heel. I don't really know what the story is with that. And then at the same time, I believe he wore it every time he went to All Japan because, man, you wrestle over there barefoot. It's just a whole nother world.
Yeah, exactly. But still, I'm speechless. I mean, it was just a great match. It was
we'll get back out of the boots and into the angle here to close out this segment.
Even the boot thing. I mean, just everything is just perfect about this. And I'm not really surprised a lot of people hadn't seen this because a lot of the people are now, they're not old heads like McAdam and I. They're guys I'm not calling you old either, right? But you're a wrestling savant. A lot of these guys in these groups now are a lot younger, and they just had no idea anything like this had ever occurred.
Well, I'm always happy whenever I can expose people to new things. This week, I also posted High Chief Afi joining the Islanders for 1 week in 1988. So with the good comes the bad, I guess. But this was good.
Even I don't remember that one. You took me by surprise.
So Terry Gordy comes in, makes the save. He's not going to let his partner do the job. Michael Hayes out to even the odds. Remember, Kevin Von Erich saved Michael Hayes at the Omni, and now Michael Hayes returning the favor, guys, as we go off to Gordon Soley. We're going to hear from the pair of baby faces right now. Here's Kevin Von Erich and Purely Sexy Hayes.
Just absolutely blown away with the fact that this man, to my right, had to reach so far down and get away from that. It's absolutely amazing, Kevin.
Mr. Soley, I've been coming here for 3 weeks and doing all I can do to win my matches. From now on, I'm turning the page. I was attacked the third time out here tonight. I've been interrupted, and it ain't gonna happen again, folks. From now on, I'm gonna do whatever I've got to do to win matches, and I'm not gonna lose again. Gordy and Snuka, I'm offering you an open challenge, and you'd better accept it because, baby, I got my bowling shirt on now, and I ain't gonna back down from nobody.
Well, he never has in the past, and obviously certainly isn't going to in the future. Mr. Hayes?
Well, you know, the man did me a favor in the Omni when they seemed to take 2-on-1, try to have some fun with the Freebird, and the man came and helped me. Well, I saw the situation to do the same, because let me tell you something, Daddy. You talked about getting nasty. I'm the one that taught you everything about getting nasty. And if you think for 1 second that I'm going to let you do this man or any other man when I can do something about it, then you're just as dumb as you look, baby Huey.
Saturday, September 12th, at the Omni in Atlanta, Dusty Rhodes, World Heavyweight Champion, defends his title against the former champion, Harley Race. And then Snuka and Gordy, the Georgia Tag Team Champions, their titles on the line against these two gentlemen.
The only thing that they can brag about is those belts that they wear around their waist. I taught you how to be a champion. Now, you've been throwing everything but the kitchen sink at me. I keep walking out. You gave this man the body press and he kicked right out. Now, just what do you think you're going to do in the 12th on the Omni?
Hey, I got a lot more in that bag that I hadn't showed you folks yet. My father invented the Iron Claw, and don't you underestimate me one bit. I've got every bit as much power in my hand as my father taught me to, and I intend on using it.
Hey, I wouldn't be teaming up with him if I didn't trust him to take care of this pretty face like I'm going to, baby. We gonna strut, stroll, rock and roll with them
September
belts.
12th at the Omni.
So Gordon Soley absolutely shocked that Kevin kicked out of the Superfly Splash. Kevin claiming that he's only been in the territory for 3 weeks. I wrote several question marks here, but it's Kevin, so...
3, 6, what's the difference?
Well, the promo goes on from here as Von Erich issues an open challenge to Gordy and Snuka, as he says he's now got his bowling shirt on. I'm not really sure what that was supposed to mean. So I wrote, number 1, challenging a specific person or persons, Jammie, to a quote-unquote open challenge no longer makes it open. And number 2, you're going to fill me in on what getting your bowling shirt on means?
He's ready to hit some strikes.
I thought maybe it just escapes me. We talked about sartorial splendor many episodes ago, maybe a year ago, and I've heard it a million times since then. But at the time, I was like, what does that mean? And you explained it to me. You said that was a common phrase used from time to time, and I've heard it many times since then. Even Vince McMahon's used it a couple times in some of the stuff I've covered, but I had never heard. I got my bowling shirt on now, so I went and Googled it. It does not appear anywhere on the face of the earth.
Kevin is Kevin. I mean, again, remember, him and Michael just got done battling the bad guys in the ring. Maybe they went in the back and, experimented a little bit.
Yeah. Well, speaking of bowling, I was sitting there picturing Kevin Von Erich bowling, and I had to wonder, with the Iron Claw, do you think they drilled 2 extra holes so they could throw the ball with all 5 fingers in there?
That is a distinct possibility. I mean, I could see Fritz at the bowling alley bringing his drill. Dad, what are you doing? Son, this is the way you bowl. All 5 fingers.
And that's how you learn the claw. That's how I learned.
It builds up strength for the claw, son.
There you go. Yeah, you sound more like King Curtis there than Fritz Von Erich, but I'll take it.
I get lost in all these guys. If it's coming out of my mouth, they all sound the same.
Kevin Von Erich here, though, he says that he has more in his bag of tricks, as his father invented the Iron Claw. We saw it right here. He used it, I believe, maybe for the first time since he's been here in Georgia. As Michael Hayes once again reiterates there that Kevin helped him at the Omni, Michael returning the favor here today on TV, and the two will team against Gordy and Snuka next week at the Omni.
In a title match.
Championship on the line this time. Andre was non-title, and they did score the pin. This time, titles are on the line.
Yes, it will be. And back to Michael making the save after that match over. Wasn't it great? Anytime Michael jumps in and he has street clothes on, the hair flows. Usually the suit jacket flows up in the air. It's a thing of beauty seeing Michael Hayes in street clothes jumping in the ring. And then he's got the boots on. I mean, he is one badass
Was
dude.
he wearing one of those ascots this week? Because that is no-no.
I believe he was. I think he was wearing an ascot. Hey, look, what the hell was Kevin wearing the other week? A yellow something around. And wait till we get to the next episode. Okay. I have some notes for whatever Kevin was wearing in the upcoming. Yeah.
So you mentioned earlier at the top of the show you had some things to complain about. Was that on this episode of TV, or are we saving that for the next episode of TV? Because I don't want to forget about it.
Probably the next episode.
Okay, yeah, I think I know where you were going with that then. Okay, we'll save that for the next episode of TV. As we got a little bit left here on this episode, National Champion Masked Superstar taking on Don Gilbert. Total control here by the champion, swinging neckbreaker, nice Russian leg sweep, pulls Gilbert up from several pinfall attempts here. Then he lands that sit-out lariat and the Cobra Clutch, the Cobra Hold. Going to give Superstar the win, 3 minutes and 14 seconds. And his foe right now, the Georgia champion Tommy Rich, standing by with Gordon Soley after the match. Tommy selling his abdominal stretch hold. Remember, we saw him use that a time or two here in recent TV episodes. Selling it as a threat here, going to stretch out the body of the Superstar as he's looking to take the title, the national title, and Tommy looking to be a dual champion.
If you look at today's Paul Levesque era, if you're watching the current product, has anyone else noticed, besides myself and the other ship fellows, that guys are using different finishers to finish their matches right now? It's not always the signature move in which they're winning their match. And that's the way things were done back at this time. Yes, Superstar had his Cobra hold. Tommy Rich was using a Thez press, but now he's going to the abdominal stretch. Guys always had different endings. Even two doesn't use the $1 million knee drop every time.
It's a knee lift, Jammie.
A knee lift.
I just didn't want him coming after you out of his grave.
Yeah, but Bob Backlund was the knee drop.
Well, there's a lot of good knee drops in wrestling history, but I haven't really kept up with the
knee drop was Bob Backlund. That's it.
That's it. Yeah, that was definitely a finisher from old Bob.
My point is, back at this time, guys were using multiple finishers.
No, yeah, absolutely. And, I haven't been keeping up with the product today enough to know what's been going on with the TV in regards to the finishes, but that's pretty cool to know that, they're doing that. They're utilizing different moves and things of that nature, as you never know when the finish could be. And we've still got a couple of matches here at the end of the television this week, and they're even getting Brian St. John some TV time. He's going to be teaming up with Iron Mike Sharpe to take on Ken Timms and Jerry Mahoney, and that is not the ventriloquist dummy.
I didn't see Paul Winchell there as their manager, so
that would have been cool.
I know it wasn't the dummy.
But in my notes, I just wrote, this was there. Brian St. John in the match most of the way, delivers that. He's got a really nice looking belly to belly suplex, really pumps it over. Defeats Mahoney here. Match goes 3 minutes and 11 seconds. But as my wheels were spinning as I'm watching this match, waiting for it to end, I wrote, could you imagine if we got a tag team of Jerry Mahoney and Rocco from Legion of Doom?
That would have been great.
It would have been fun times. I'm sure like 2 people might have got that joke. We'll have to wait and see if they respond on Twitter or Facebook or whatever. As we got one more match here, we're going to close out this week's show. Wildfire Tommy Rich taking on Deke Rivers, the Georgia champion, controlling Deke. Goes after that injured hand, though, does the job guy here, reminding us just how hurt it must be Tommy Rich selling for this underneath guy. However, this upsets Wildfire, who regains control and delivers the Lawler-esque fist drop with the taped fist to show just how hard his fist must be at this point in time. So, double-edged sword there, Tommy Rich scoring the win in 3 minutes and 22 seconds.
See, the Jerry Lawler effect. He taught Tommy that move,
I love this was like two stories in this match. A, my hand hurts, so they're going after it. But B, my hand is taped up, and I can use it as a weapon. And that he does to score the win. So, like I said, double-edged sword.
Yes, it was. And it is. It's a double-edged sword, exactly. And Superstar's in trouble.
All right, guys, we're going to go off to another week of great house show results and then another week of TV. And if we have time, maybe we'll get to the next OMNI card as well. But first, it's time to pay some of the bills here as we head off into a WrestleCopia commercial break. Hey guys, Ray Russell here, curator of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network, inviting you guys to listen to many of the programs here as part of the WrestleCopia brand, including, but not limited to, the Wrestling Memory Grenade, currently covering the 1988 and the WWF project. You can also listen to the Regional RASSLIN Podcast, where we talk the territories, whether it's Jamie Ward with Georgia 81, Roman Gomez with the UWF in 1986, or Gene Jackson covering Memphis in 85. 3 projects going on right now over there at Regional RASSLIN. You can also listen to the Wrestling Stoop with the legend himself, Bob Roop. Bob goes back in time each and every week, covering not just his career, but countless stories and interactions with hundreds of wrestling names spanning his 2 decades in the business. But that's not all. You can also check out the Puro Wrestling Academy with the professor of Puro Resu, Mr. Dan Ginnity. Dan and I go back in time and cover the history of Japanese professional wrestling in the English language. And you can listen to all of those shows and more, all part of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network, located over at WrestleCopia.com. That's WrestleCopia.com, and anywhere your podcast streaming needs are met, from Apple to Spotify, Pocket Cast, and beyond. And while you're at it, why not subscribe to our social media guys for all the latest goings on here at the WrestleCopia Podcast Network. Plus, I'm constantly adding old school video clips and pictures from throughout wrestling history. You can follow us over on X, formerly Twitter, at Wrestling Grenade. That's at RASSLIN Grenade. Also, follow and like me, Facebook.com/Wrestling Grenade. And why not subscribe to YouTube.com/Wrestling Grenade. And of course, now would be a fantastic time to become a WrestleCopia patron. I'm talking about that $5 all access tier over at patreon.com/WrestleCopia. That address again, patreon.com/WrestleCopia, where you get so many gifts for just $5, including all of my insanely detailed show notes for every episode of The Grenade Show, Regional Wrestling, and the Monday Warfare podcast. You'll also get early access to a lot of the podcasts here on the WrestleCopia brand, where you can listen days and sometimes as much as a week earlier than the rest of the listeners. We also offer remastered versions of the earliest episodes of The Grenade Show covering the 1989 NWA project. Includes enhanced sound quality, plus new content and conversation never heard before. But that's still not all, guys. You also get at least a dozen digital downloads for your viewing and reading pleasure each and every month, plus random bonus video drops, and of course, the Patreon exclusive Watch Along series covering mini past WWF and WCW events. And if that's not all, videocasts, also now a part of Patreon. And for those who like all of their podcasts in one nice, neat little pile, the WrestleCopia Patreon also offers a Patreon exclusive Spotify account. You can actually go over to your Spotify with your WrestleCopia Patreon credentials. Instead of listening or downloading directly from Patreon, you can go over to Spotify, listen to all the latest shows, including all of the early releases. And you get all of that and so much more for just $5. No subscription, cancel anytime. Give it a try for a month, guys. I think you'll like the content that I offer, and every penny of it goes right back here into paying the bills. So if you're looking to support that next up-and-coming podcast brand, please consider making it WrestleCopia. Help me pay some of the bills to keep the WrestleCopia podcast network and all of the great shows here up and running for the months and the years to come. All right, guys, welcome back to the Regional Wrestling Podcast in the middle of Georgia 1981, now in the month of September. But, Jamie, we were talking during that commercial break, and you mentioned that, no, wait, this was the episode where you had a bone to pick with the college scoreboard and things of that nature. So I was going to let you take the airwaves here and rant away.
You know, for as much as I admire Ted Turner and what he did for professional wrestling, putting it up on satellite, making it so everybody could see Georgia Championship Wrestling, I gotta rip Ted for being greedy.
Okay.
And why do you think I'm gonna rip Ted Turner, who's one of my heroes, Captain Courageous himself, the guy that won the America's Cup, brought it back to America.
He sure did.
However, goddamn Ted Turner sold out to SEC football. Yes, I love college football. I've always loved college football. But he took 5 precious minutes away from Georgia Championship Wrestling every Saturday night at the end of the first hour to have Gordon Soley throw it over to whoever his good friend was that I'm sure Gordon had never met or had drinks with. And then I had to sit there and look to see that Wyoming was beating Idaho 35-13. I didn't give a crap. I wanted Georgia Championship Wrestling. And then it only gets worse because every now and then, as time went on for the next couple months, they would cut out of Georgia Championship Wrestling 10, 15 minutes early to cover SEC football. Wow. I was mad. I was upset. I never forgave Ted Turner. Ran over.
Wow. I love it, you know, and unfortunately the college scoreboard gimmick, that went on for years and years after this because...
Yeah, it did. It goes all the way through the Jim Crockett promotion when we get Banner all right. Giving the scores to college scores.
Yeah, I think I'm in 87 right now. My son's been watching, binge watching World Championship Wrestling, and we're at the end of 87, and Craig Sager's doing it right now. So, yeah, it's still going strong there at the end of 87, but we're here in 81, so it's still in its infancy on TBS as we head back to the house shows.
I didn't mind it in 87. It was just 81. He's taken away from what I'm a young and impressionable, and I want my wrestling.
Good call. I can see that. I totally can. I've lived through those type of things myself, so I totally get where you're coming from. As we head back on the road for the house show results here for the following week, September 5th, Chattanooga, Tennessee, Memorial Auditorium. Ted Oates, man, we haven't seen him a whole lot. Over David Sierra, George Wells beating Mike Sharpe. Sonoda going to a draw with Ted Oates. You know, there's a lot of double duty from Ted Oates on whenever he does pop up. It's his name twice, and I'm wondering, are these omissions of Jerry Oates? Is there some sort of a typo? Or is Jerry working a different territory? I really need to go look that up. But this is not the first time. I don't even think it's the second time I've seen Ted Oates' name working double duty on these shows. So kind of curious as the main event here in Chattanooga. Wow. Tommy Rich and Hayes over Gordy and Snuka in a Texas Tornado match. For those of you wondering, that means no tagging. All 4 men are legal in the ring.
When I first saw this advertised on, not this particular match, but the first time I ever saw a Texas Tornado tag team match advertised on Georgia Wrestling, I always want to see it live. And I think I finally did with a JYD Sergeant Slaughter against Sheik and Volkov at the Spectrum in late 84.
Wow,
but up to that point, I always wanted to see one of those where they had all 4 guys in the ring at the same time.
Very cool. Well, let's see what we got here for results this week. They're September 5th in Carrollton at the Fairgrounds. No results. September 6th, Marietta, Cobb County Civic Center. Also no results. I do apologize for that, guys. But we head off September 7th in Augusta, Georgia, Bell Auditorium. And what do we have here? Results. Yay! George Wells over Rick Ferreira. Bruno Jr. defeating Professor Sonoda. Steve O over Brian St. John. Kevin Von Erich defeating Iron Mike Sharpe. It's Mr. Michael
I'm glad
Hayes.
I wasn't there for that match. I wouldn't have known who to root for.
Oh, come on now. You said Mike Sharpe's like 4th now, right? So Kevin's got to be higher than that. You root for whoever's higher on the list.
But when you're there live, I mean, it's your first love against your new love.
You don't want to. You don't want to upset either guy. I get it.
Yeah, exactly.
Also on the card, Wrestling 2 teaming with Michael Hayes over at Snuka and Gordy on a disqualification, and Wildfire Tommy Rich defeating the Masked Superstar in the main event of a Texas street fight. Wow. Pulling out some gimmick matches here this week on the house shows.
Obviously, no belt was on the line. You know what else I also missed from that last TV taping I have in my notes?
Okay.
Gordon Soley, when talking about Mr. Wrestling 2, said Mr. Wrestling 2 will range anywhere from 228 to 232 pounds.
Wow. Okay.
That was pretty specific for Gordon. That was a good call. And
yeah, Gordon's always...
I guess who wanted to keep his good shape for his wife.
Yeah,
so when they got home and she's looking up at him and he's got the mask on.
For anybody who's not a big fan of the 7-8 minute squash matches, all you got to do is just kind of tune out the match and listen to Gordon. He can entertain you for sure, depending on who's in the ring.
I'm sorry. Back to Texas Street Fight.
Absolutely.
No belt was on the line, I imagine. Or at least Superstars wasn't.
Yes, Tommy Rich over Superstar there, Texas Street Fight in Augusta, September 8th in West Point, Georgia. No results for that. But September 9th, Columbus, Georgia, Memorial Auditorium, Ted Oates over Rick Ferreira, Bruno Jr. defeating the French Angel, George Wells over Sonoda, and then 6-man action. Going to see Kevin Von Erich, Steve O, and Mr. Wrestling 2 over Terry Gordy, Jimmy Snuka, and Iron Mike Sharpe. What an odd match. It just looks like they took a bunch of names and threw them in the ring there. As the main event, once again, Tommy Rich over the Superstar in another street fight.
Yeah, but I would have loved to see that 6-man match. That must have been great.
Do all gimmick matches come out of Texas at this time? I mean, Texas Street Fight, Texas Tornado, Texas Death. Can Georgia not have its own street fight?
Well, you got to remember, who's the world champ?
Dusty Rhodes, baby.
Dusty Rhodes from Texas. So everything got to be from Texas.
But is he booking Georgia? I mean, I really don't know. But we go on, guys. September 10th, Valdosta, Georgia.
Wait a minute. Is he booking Georgia? He's booking the world at this time. He's the world heavyweight champion. Wherever he's going, he's calling
as long as he's the world champion, I'll agree with you. As long as he's the world champion.
He's going to be world champion forever, as we know.
I got no results for the Mathis Auditorium in Valdosta on September 10th. So we move along to September 12th, once again back in TBS Studios, for another edition of Georgia Championship Wrestling TV, hosted by Gordon Soley. And once again, a special reminder, this is the final week to send in your vote, Jamie. Postcard only. You know all about postcards. Send it to your favorite wrestler. What year did postcards die? They're still going. Oh, yeah? I haven't seen one in a long time.
They're not so much you going away and sending a postcard home anymore. It's more companies saving money and sending out advertising on postcard.
Yeah. I never looked at that as a postcard. Yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah. By definition, that is a postcard.
And complete with this first class stamp. I'm not talking about the bulk mailing ones.
Yeah.
Some companies are actually using first class stamps. I don't even see behind the scenes of the United States Postal Service.
Yeah. Postal education right here on Regional Wrestling.
They do not do any kind of stand-up talks. I've been here almost 40 years. They have all kind of stupid stand-up talks about all kind of stupid stuff. Safety is not stupid. That's important. However, do you think one time in 40 years they've ever stood up on the workroom floor and said, all right, everyone, here's a reminder: stamps go up in price this coming Monday, and they're going up to 25. Like when I started, it was in the teens.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't even tell you how much it is now. I think it's like 66 cents. They don't tell us how much it is anymore. They don't even tell us how much a book of stamps is. I mean, we know that forever stamps last forever. They're good at whatever price you bought them for.
Yeah, my grandma loved forever stamps.
And unless I'm reading the news or something, I have no idea how much stamps are anymore. Behind the scenes, don't tell anybody.
You deliver mail, but you don't really purchase any stamps. So I totally. So what you're saying is you just steal the book of stamps whenever you need it. I gotcha. That's okay. We'll move on.
I buy. You know how many people come up to me and say, "I guess you get free stamps, right?" Hell no, we don't get free stamps.
I would have never. You ain't getting nothing free from the government.
When we used to have morning break in the office, we'd have to go stand out in the public line to buy our stamps. And now I have to I have to be lucky to be back by 4:00 so I could get into the public line to buy the stamps. There's no favoritism, at least in my office. There's no favoritism. You got to wait in line just like everyone else.
Now that you know the rest of the story.
And that was Postal Service 101 this week on Regional Wrestling, guys. More than you ever knew, more than you probably ever wanted to know. And I thank Jammie Ward for teaching us a little bit there. I enjoyed it. As Gordon kicks off, though, he says postcards only. Next week, the next episode of Georgia here on Regional Wrestling, we will know everyone's favorite wrestler here in the Georgia territory. What is it? Most popular, most favorite? I don't even remember what it's called at this point. But finally, we're going to have a winner. What do you want to call it? Crowned next time right here on TBS. So get those postcards in right now, guys. As he was here last week, and he's back here this week, 2 weeks in a row, talking about the NWA World Heavyweight Champion, Dusty Rhodes.
But right now, more important things on my mind and the mind of the gentleman right to my left. I'm referring, of course, to 2 times World Heavyweight Wrestling Champion, the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. Welcome aboard, Dusty.
Gonzalo, it's opportunity to be on this super station, be on this super place to talk about something that's very, very close to me. You know, I offer up this thing right here, this World Heavyweight title belt. I offer it up to the Ernie lads, to the Ric Flairs, to the Harley races, to the many men throughout this country that have a dream of being World Heavyweight Champion. Dusty Rhodes, the World Heavyweight Wrestling Champion. At any time, you know I can be beat. But you know it's going to take a lot of men to beat Dusty Rhodes, the American Dream. So I'm offering it up to you. I'm laying it out to you, the mass superstars, the Ernie lads, the Ric Flairs, the Erich, the Tommy Richards, and the Harley Races 6 times World Heavyweight Champion, the American Dream, the Cosmic Cowboy, the last surviving hero in this country has the goal. If any of them want it, all they got to do is play my song, and I'll take that pinch between my cheek and gum out, and I'll get in that ring, and I'll do some battle jack like they never seen done in the history of pro wrestling, because I am truly proud of this thing here, guys.
So Dusty offering the title up to everyone here, name-dropping Ernie Ladd, Ric Flair, Harley Race, Masked Superstar, Kevin Von Erich, I think he called him Kerry, but I'm not sure, and Tommy Rich. But he says it's going to take a lot of man to take the title from the Dream, as he refers to himself as the last surviving hero, if you will.
Well, he is, him and Uvalde Slim.
Well, he's the last surviving hero, so he may have outlived Uvalde Slim at this point.
Oh yeah, but, that's right. He kind of died, I think, at the end of 1980.
So, you know, Dusty doing a favor here, not just name dropping some of the top guys who are indeed in line for the title or title shots like Race and Flair, but he's name dropping the local guys right now. Tommy Rich, former champion himself, but the superstar Von Erich, and Ernie Ladd, who was actually here this week, which is likely why he mentioned him. As we go off to the ring for tag team action, going to be George Wells teaming with Steve O, taking on Dave Forrester, and holy shit, Izzy Slapowitz is here on Georgia TV this week, as it's referee George Scott Jr. going to start out for hour 1. George Wells kicking things off with a nice slingshot drop kick into the ring, and then a slingshot clothesline as well on Forrester. I honestly thought that was going to be the finish, but it wasn't. Speaking of Forrester, I want to describe this guy for everybody out there that doesn't watch the videos. He's about 6'2", says Gordon here, and a 5-year pro, but he's kind of bulky. Gordon putting over his 5-sport athletics in college. Honestly, for his size, you know, he's a pretty big boy. I thought he was pretty solid in here.
Yeah, I think they could have done something with him down the line in some promotion.
Now, as for Izzy, not the most threatening-looking guy, and I see why he managed more often than he wrestled. But I thought it might have been a mistake last week, but Steve-O, once again, off the top rope, again, with that double chop thingy. Going to score the win, and why do they give these guys so long? Match goes 7 minutes and 25 seconds. We did get a little more from George Wells this week, but Steve-O, I don't know, we're going to have to change up that finish.
You know, that was actually a very instrumental finish in professional wrestling history. Vern Gagne has been watching Georgia Championship Wrestling the last couple of weeks.
Uh-huh.
So when we get up to like 1985, 86, and he has Steve-O working for him, and the Ninja quits, he says, I remember seeing you, Steve. You were on Georgia Wrestling doing that double chop thingy.
Yeah, absolutely.
And turn him into a ninja.
Do yourselves a favor and Google what Jammie was talking about with the Ninja and the AWA and Steve-O, of all people. But totally. I was caught off guard by seeing Izzy here. He probably came down from Knoxville. I know Vines and Sword were up there, so it's very possible. We go on. Gordon Soley again standing by. We've got more new talent in the area. It's the great Mephisto. Frankie Kane is now here, along with his protege, Tor Kamata.
Right now, I want to take a moment to talk to a gentleman who certainly needs no introduction to wrestling fans the entire world over. I'm referring, of course, to the great Mephisto. Here is a man who, along with being an outstanding competitor in the pro ranks for a number of years, has developed an uncanny knack for discovering some of the toughest wrestling competitors in the world. And he has brought us a new man now in Tor Kamata.
Tor Kamata. You know, Gordon and Soley, there have been a lot of unusual talent that has came into professional wrestling. And as you have known, I have managed the most outstanding, the most fierce fighting competitors that wrestling has ever had to offer. But the most outstanding wrestler that I have ever managed in my entire length of time of management is Tor Kamata. 365 pounds of mental and muscular coordination. This man is a human destruction machine. Now let me give you just a little background of Tor Kamata. He was born in Nagasaki, Japan, in the war-torn city. The sins of mankind were written across Nagasaki, which grieved Kamata. Kamata then, at a very, very early age, started to study Buddhism and became, after 14 years of meditation, a Buddhist monk. He is an ordained Buddhist monk. But let this not fool the competitors. This man is an astute student of karate, kung fu, catch-kin, any form of fighting, any form of martial arts. And he has one destination, and that is to rid wrestling of all the evil spirits. As you know, a man has to go with his karma. And Tor Kamata reincarnated many, many times. And now this time he has been reincarnated back into the fierce competitor that he is. And you'll see much more of him.
Thank you so very much, the great Mephisto and Tor Kamata. We'll be back in just a moment.
Well, Kamata, apparently an ordained Buddhist monk, says the great Mephisto. But he knows many martial arts, Jammie, as do most Buddhist monks. Tor has been reincarnated into the warrior that he is. But man, I wrote, what facials by Tor Kamata. It's like if King Curtis and Toru Tanaka sired a child.
Oh, yeah. And this wasn't somebody new for me. Kamata was in the WWF in 78 when I first started watching, and he was back again in 1980, and he even appears on the Shea Stadium card.
Yep. He works Patterson, I believe, right?
Right, and he's nothing but really a mid-carder, and to see him get a push here is very interesting. But with Mephisto, I had heard of Mephisto, but this is the first time I had seen Mephisto.
Okay.
And of course, I didn't know anything about his background. I was very surprised with how American sounding he was.
Yeah, it was kind of for a guy who had been in the business as long as he had, you'd think he would have come up with a better accent than whatever this was here, because wherever he was quote unquote from, it really wasn't passable. But I'm not trying to rip on the guy. Mephisto had been around forever. He was known as a guy who did not take crap. Long time top heel everywhere he went. He was a booker. But I mean, Mephisto had been around, and I encourage everybody to go check out his book. I think Scott Teal was the one who released it. It's a great read. I just read it recently, and man, what a career he had. And most people don't know about it because most of it happened prior to videotapes. Yeah, and when Ole reforms Georgia Championship Wrestling, I believe he brings Mephisto and General Homer Odell. That's a blast from the past. Right there at the very beginning when they were doing Georgia house shows, and they were still doing kind of TV tapings out of Columbus there. But both guys are on those shows. I vaguely remember Homer popping back up, and now I remember where it was. Thank you, Jamie Ward. I gotta go see that again. Yeah, but neither was there for that long. You know, if you blink, you might miss them. But both made a quick appearance for. Yeah, I know there was an issue many years ago prior to this between Mephisto and Roy Shire. Bob Roop has stated his opinion on Shire, or his situations that he had with Shire in San Francisco. It's very well documented, Mephisto's issues with Shire many years prior to that, when he left the territory, quit the San Francisco promotion on Shire. And Mephisto, like I said, known not to take any crap from anyone, and very well respected by Bob Roop, who speaks highly of Mephisto every time he comes up in our topics. So, but he's here now with Tor Kamata, who is quite a large species to step in the ring. But don't judge a book by his cover. That guy can move. Oh, yeah. Tor Kamata is a very serviceable wrestler, and he was believable. I mean, he was going to challenge Dusty for the NWA title, so if Mephisto could get him a shot. Well, guys, we're going to roll on with TV. Gordon Solie talking for the first time this week to the brand new team of Kevin Von Erich and Michael Hayes. As we heard Dusty Rhodes earlier at the top of the show mention Von Erich's name in the list of potential world title challengers, Kevin here says he feels he's come of age for the opportunity, and that's when he's interrupted by Freebird begins to play. Michael Hayes interrupts the interview, so Kevin gets cut off talking about a potential world title shot there, as Michael going to talk about Baby Huey. They got him tonight in the Omni. Tag titles on the line, and Hayes has with him a pack of diapers, which he's bringing for Baby Huey, a.k.a. Terry Gordy. So Michael Hayes, Kevin Von Erich going to take the tag team titles, take their bread and butter, and nothing other. Yeah, well, it's going to become a common thing to be interrupted by Michael Hayes for the next 5 years. For everyone. Not just the Von Erichs, but for everyone in the world of professional wrestling. As, we heard just a little bit ago from Mephisto and his man Tor Kamata there wandering around during the promo. Now we're going to see Kamata in the ring with Mephisto ringside. Kamata taking on Deke Rivers as the barefoot, where's he from? I'm not even sure. I don't know. They said he was from Japan. Okay, from Japan. And if it is, it's on the show that we're not going to get to this week. On that show, Mephisto, and even Gordon says he's one of the top wrestlers out of Japan. Okay. Thank you for the information. There you go. Now I don't have to go Google it later. So Kamata in the ring doing the barefoot shtick and laying in some martial arts, chops and kicks here. Mephisto even instructing Kamata what to do, even getting physical, whacking away, slapping Kamata here to keep him under control. Then out of nowhere in the matchup, the 300+ pound easily and 44-year-old Tor Kamata landing a standing drop kick. See what I was talking about, guys? And a big splash. Brother. Deke Rivers is not getting up from that one. Tor Kamata going to go over 3 minutes and 20 seconds. The guy was like a fire hydrant that could move. He was. And you go back and watch those WWF matches you were talking about, not just the Patterson match, but the squash matches and the matches from the Garden and whatnot that he would appear in. He could come off the top rope with the greatest of ease. Now, I'm not saying he was Bobby Eaton by any stretch of the imagination, but for a guy his size to climb up there and come off with a diving splash, a diving knee drop, very impressive, especially in that era. And he'd been around a long time. I believe I remember reading WWF results back in the 60s with him there. It's very possible. I was always intrigued by him, honestly. In the facials here, he's getting up there in age for the wrestling world, and so he's relying more on his look, which he has a hell of a look. So it's working out right now, at least for me. I know the kid in me would have totally bought this run. as we go back to the ring. More action. We saw Kamata. Now we're going to see a completely different style, as it is the former 6-time world champion Harley Race in the ring. He's here this week. Of course, he's going to be working the Dream for the title later tonight at the Omni, but right now it's Harley taking on a warm-up match with Rick Thor. Is Harley going to counter a Thor side headlock right out of the gate with a back suplex and then a nasty Race-style knee drop as and I wrote this just to remind myself, the 38-year-old Harley Race, oh my God, he looks so much older here. He's in full control, the gut-wrench suplex, the double underhook suplex, and even a knee lift to the side of the head of Thor sends him through the ropes to the outside. And then once back in the ring, we get the old vertical suplex. Going to give Harley the win, 3 minutes and 40 seconds. 38 years old. I can't believe it.
I mean, it's amazing. You would think that him and Kamata should be switching ages there. I mean, again, I think I've said it before. I thought Race was like 50 years old the first time I ever saw him on Georgia Championship Wrestling.
I don't know what made me think of his age. I don't know if Gordon mentioned it, and that's what, jogged my memory, but just the flag, oh my God, he really is 38 years old, because I remember he was only, a few years older when he was working for Vince as the King, and he was like really aged out by then, at least in his looks. But it's crazy how much older Harley looks than he really is here, to be 38 years old and just, oh wow, man, he was the man though.
You know what? There was another Gordon Soley special line in here. No, it wasn't anything about Harley Race, but it gives you kind of maybe an insight that I'm thinking maybe Ole planted some kind of seed in his head for this one. Okay. Gordon said, when you're watching men like Harley Race, it doesn't matter if you're in Seattle, Washington, or Des Moines, Iowa. Get out and see pro wrestling at your local arena any chance you get. So I wonder if, here we go, laying the groundwork well in advance for possible expansion.
Possible. Speaking of Gordon, we're going to go back to him now. Going to be talking to the national heavyweight champion. We're going to hear from the superstar.
Let me take a moment right now to talk to the superstar. Here's a man who enjoys perhaps one of the most feared reputations in professional wrestling.
There seems to be a lot of commotion here. These people seem to be wanting Tommy Rich. I see the Dusty Rhodes has showed his face again. You've got everybody here. Harley Race, Ric Flair is even here. Wrestling number 2, George Wells, Steve. All these individuals seem to make their appearance right here because they know that this is the toughest competition. And I want Tommy Rich and I want all these fellas to pay attention, because when I get in this ring, I'm going to show them what I'm going to do. And anybody who wants to put up their championship belts or put up their big egos or their reputations, all they got to do, they don't have to run around and hide and search for me. I'm right here, and I'm not going to leave anytime.
Well, I must admit, of course, you've always been a very, very active competitor, and I've never seen you backing down from any challenges, so obviously what this man has just said is certainly the truth. I would like to point out, however, that tonight, in the Omni, of course, title versus title.
See what understanding. I'm putting up this belt, Tommy Rich. Now, you've been a very, very lucky man. But this evening, right here in the Omni, I am going to lose my cool. I'm going to lose my control for a short period of time, maybe 1 hour, because I'm coming out after you. I am not going to be embarrassed. I am not going to walk out of that arena, that Coliseum in the Omni, without your belt. You have put me in a corner. You have backed me up against the wall, and you have been very, very lucky and very, very smug the last few weeks. You want this championship belt? I want your belt. You want to take this mask off? Well, come on, Tommy Rich. I'll be in the Omni. I'll be right across the ring from you. And it's going to be you and I. And believe me, Tommy, I'm telling you, I'm going to take your championship belt away from you.
All right, the blue-eyed champion welcoming all comers. He says he doesn't hide from anyone, and tonight in the Omni, he won't be embarrassed without the titles because he'll be a dual champion. You want my mask, Tommy Rich? Come and get it.
Yeah, and what a beautiful mask he was wearing. Did you check that out?
Yes, it was different.
Mask?
Yeah, it was a different mask. It really caught my eye. I'm glad you pointed that out. I did not put that in my notes, but I remember as I was watching it going, that's a unique one. I don't remember that one.
It wasn't the normal red, blue, or black mask. It was this turquoise kind of Florida Marlin type mask. It was really cool. And yes, it made his eyes pop. He's got those baby blues that just stand right out, and I thought he even stood out more in that mask.
Yeah,
and again, what an interview.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know that he's had a bad one yet. I don't know if he will, but he's in action next as well. The national champion, masked superstar, taking on who Gordon calls Curtis Austin, real name Curtis Hairston. More on that in just a second, Jamie.
He was close, okay? He got the tin right, okay?
The last time we saw Austin, we speculated that had to be his first match because he was not very good, to be polite. More the same here, as he just takes a nasty turnbuckle smash at one point, threw his whole body into it. I don't know how you make a turnbuckle smash look like a finisher, but it could have been here. As the superstar just trying to have a wrestling match with him, God bless Bill Eadie, he goes to throw Austin out of the ring, but Curtis, he doesn't go through the ropes correctly, and he catches himself, and his eyebrow bounces off the steel bar that is on the edge of the ring apron. I wrote, ugh. So his eyebrow now busted wide open, but to Eadie's credit, he goes right into the finish, sit-out clothesline, and the Cobra hold, as the referee doesn't even bother to raise Hairston's hand. Here he just calls for the bell. Match goes 2 minutes and 6 seconds.
Yes, and I'm going to guess you may have missed it, but I guess Gordon felt sorry for the guy after his last appearance. And right at the beginning of the match, he says, "Don't sell Curtis Austin short. He's quite a man."
Wow. Okay.
Quote, Gordon Soley.
Well, Gordon must have been, trying to make up for something here. But I found this interesting, this match on YouTube by itself. And there was a guy who posted it by the name of Bone Crusher Curtis on YouTube. And he posted this several years ago. But it turned out to be Curtis Austin, a.k.a. Curtis Hairston. And this is what he had to say about the matchup. He said, "This was my second TV taping," and probably his second match, but his second TV taping on Georgia Championship Wrestling, wrestling the masked superstar Bill Eadie. The announcer, Gordon Soley, forgot my name on my first TV taping, called him Curtis Austin, so he just announced him as Curtis Austin yet again. So that's Gordon Soley for you. He says, "I was only 21 years old and very green and stiff as a board. That day in the ring, I busted my eye open on the outer ring and blood was everywhere. I loved every minute of it."
Hey, why not? That was his 5 minutes of fame.
I guess so, but I just thought it was kind of funny here to hear that, Gordon messed my name up, and instead of correcting himself, because we were really going to remember what he called him last time. I mean, they've changed these guys' names on the same episode before, right? And Gordon just going to stick with Curtis Austin.
The same episode. Why don't you try the same match? Remember Denny Brown?
Oh, Denny Brown and whoever that really was.
Yeah, and the other Denny. I mean, and it wasn't even Denny Brown. It was the other Denny. And Gordon does his own thing because he is Gordon Soley and can do that.
Well, I want to, I mean, it's been a few years, so I don't even know if he's hanging around right now listening to this, but I want to thank Curtis Hairston for posting that. Just another little piece of wrestling history there, a little bit of knowledge that we wouldn't know if it wasn't for him. So very cool. Always like when I find things like that. As we continue on with the show, we heard from the Masked Superstar, and now we're going to hear from the Wildfire Tommy Rich coming out of the Superstar match. You might guess the Wildfire are going to be interrupted by the national champion.
Injured right now. I want to take a moment to talk to a fellow by the name of Tommy Wildfire Rich, former world heavyweight champion, currently the Georgia heavyweight champion.
Well, thank you very much, Gordon. It seems like there's a whole lot of things going on here in Georgia. The Bulldogs is on top, the Falcons is on top, and Georgia Championship Wrestling got a whole lot of excitement going on. I'm just glad to be a part of it.
Hey, listen, Mr. Big Mouth, I hope you were watching. I hope that guy was your friend, because that's what's in store for you. You're crying and complaining about me putting up this championship belt, and you're walking around telling everybody that you're going to take this mask off. I want to see you do it, Big Mouth.
The question is, though, you know what it amounts to? Is the last 2 times at the Omni, I whipped you. I beat you. So you wanted another shot at the Georgia belt. The only way I'd do it is if you put your title on the line.
Yeah, well, it's on the line. It's on the line tonight at the Omni. And, gentlemen, I'm going to say this. If you both want to stay here, I want it to stop right here.
Listen, don't give me any orders, and don't you give me any orders. Because I'm going to come out. I'm going to take this man right here. You've been very, very lucky, Tommy Rich. I'm going to shove this belt down your throat, and I'm going to take the Georgia belt right away from you. And you're not going to be able to do anything about it.
You know, to begin with, this is my time. This is my time. And tonight, we're just going to find out how bad you are. And we just might see who you are. Because if I get the chance, that's exactly right. I'm going to pull that mask off your face.
You're a lot of hot air, young man. A lot of hot air. And tonight,
it's going to be a whole lot hotter tonight if I need too. Yeah, I won't.
We'll see.
Gentlemen, please, I'm going to say this. Let's go to the ring.
So great use of the mishap in that last match there with Hairston busting his eyebrow open. Superstar, he isn't always that nasty, says Gordon, but he can be. As Tommy Rich pointing out that he beat Superstar the last 2 times out the Omni, so if he wants another shot at Tommy's Georgia title, well, that's why the Masked Man had to put up the national belt as well. So both titles on the line, champion versus champion, title for title, here tonight at the Omni, as the 2 men getting a little physical there at the end of the promo, some shoving, good intensity from Tommy Rich, more than usual. I liked it here. And Gordon trying to stay clear because, you know, you never know when there might be a potential brawl.
I think there was a little ad-lib there because Gordon kind of really, I guess, tenses his body up and tries to get out of the way. Like, if you look at his face, he's almost wincing, trying to move. I don't think he was expecting that.
What do you guys have in store here? We will not have that here.
You know, they probably took a break and he went behind a curtain and both of them got chewed out.
Yeah, there you go. You got to apologize to Gordon, everybody. As the show continues on, got a couple more matches here in the first hour, including tag team action. Big Cat Ernie Ladd in town, teaming with Iron Mike Sharpe, taking on Jerry Gray. First time I think we've seen him here in the territory, and Ron Haven. Warm-up for the Sharpe and Ladd tag team. They're going to be teaming up tonight against Steve O and George Wells, as the job guys completely outsized and outmatched here by the much larger bad guys. Ernie Ladd going to deliver that big boot and leg drop to score the win on Jerry Gray. Match goes 4 minutes.
Don't you just love it? We've been doing this, you know, covering since January of even before. This is the 4th time we've seen Ernie Ladd, and he only shows up for one TV taping, one Omni show, and he's gone.
Well, I'm sure he's getting a couple bucks for it. So, I mean, the Omni show anyway. So Ladd in town, we see him again, and you've already spoiled it for everybody. He is gone after tonight. I'm sure everybody kind of figured that out anyway, but Ernie Ladd here for the day, and he's teaming with Mike Sharpe this time. Also, a new arrival to the territory, Brian Blair here, mostly known from the Florida territory, and I'm so sure that Gordon knows him very well from that area. Brian Blair taking on Jose Medina, is solely running down a half a dozen college sports for Brian, and notes that he's even done some rodeoing. I don't know if that's a fact or if this is more Gordon making shit up, but I'd love to ask Brian Blair if he in fact rode a bull or a horse or whatever Gordon was alluding to here.
Interesting. I did catch that also. And if I ever trip into Brian Blair again, I'm definitely going to ask him that one.
So Gordon says, you know, you were in the rodeo. Well, Gordon was on well, we'll just leave it there. As the match gets going, Brian Blair, Jose Medina. Blair going to work a whole nother level than Medina here, who struggles to keep up. And I'm not saying that Brian Blair was flashy. Nobody's ever going to accuse him of that, or that he was, you know, running circles around him, but it was just his level of expertise in the ring. Brian Blair was really just owning Jose Medina, delivering a gut-wrench suplex, airplane spin, and a nasty Samoan drop. Could have broke Medina's arm, but that wasn't Brian's fault. Blair going to score the win with the Samoan drop here at 4 minutes and 16 seconds.
Yeah, I think they were setting up Brian to be the next Steve-O. In all seriousness, not the Mr. Personality.
No, I get you.
But I think they were going for the next
could see that.
Mid-level guy that could get in there with the main eventers, hold his own, might be the guy that has to take the fall, might even get the pinfall over the lesser of the main eventers. He's here 4, 5, 6 months. It's not like he's just going to disappear.
Can't be that long. I know my Mid-South pretty good, and I know Blair's there by the end of 81, I do believe. So he's not here super long, but I'll be interested to see what they do with him while he is here. So I'm kind of interested because I didn't look too far ahead. I didn't know how long Blair was going to stick around, so curious to see what they put him in the ring with. As we continue on, we close out hour number 1. Gordon Soley talking with Iron Mike Sharpe, and more importantly, the Big Cat, Ernie Ladd.
Wait a minute, you hope that you have some class on your interview out here. I'm known as class personified. And I don't understand why it took you so long to bring me out of it. You got filthy, dirty rolls out of a sewer. He hollers his dad was a plumber. Well, he's a plumber as far as I'm concerned. The American Nightmare. You got that man with the mask on his face.
I'll tell you what. Stay tuned. We'll be back in 5 minutes right after the football scoreboard with my good friend Bob Neal. Bob, it's all yours.
Run right out of here.
Well, that was a short promo, Jamie. Ernie Ladd says the program needs some class, and he is class personified. Promo, though, sadly cut short once again for the football scoreboard.
Stop, Ray. I got screwed out with Ernie Ladd, and even more important, words from Iron Mike Sharpe Jr. for a stupid college football scoreboard. Who cares? Put on ABC and go to the Prudential scoreboard. Get a piece of the rock over there, and not that rock. Get a piece of the rock with the Prudential scoreboard on ABC. I don't need it on TBS.
Right.
Interrupted my wrestling.
Absolutely. So, yeah, your Mike Sharpe gets interrupted, but even worse, we don't get to hear a whole lot of Ernie Ladd talking with Mr. TV announcer here this week. But
I don't know who I enjoy more, Ernie Ladd or Jim Cornette doing Ernie Ladd.
Oh, yeah. That's good. It's like a secondary Ernie Ladd. I can handle either one.
I can listen either one all day.
Oh, man. We continue on. Kickoff hour number 2. Gordon Solie talking with Tommy Rich for the second time here this week as they go on to talk about the big trophy standing here. It's going to be awarded next week, the most popular wrestler as voted by the fans, as Tommy clearly high in the running right now, you would imagine.
No way. There's no way Tommy wins this.
You don't think so? All right, well, we'll have to wait and see till next time, guys.
There is but one most popular wrestler in Georgia. He doesn't wear a belt, but he wears a mask.
There you go. I saw where that was going. Well, we go back to the ring tag team action. Georgia Tag Champions, at least for now. Terry Gordy and Jimmy Snuka taking on Bobby Garrett and Bob Russell. No relation, guys. Nick Patrick, referee for hour number 2 here as the champions dominate Bob Russell. Garrett going to tag in, goes to work on Gordy, and even a drop kick by Garrett. Gordy must have liked Garrett a little bit here, but Bobby Garrett going to miss a high knee into the corner, and Gordy goes right after Garrett's leg. Snuka tags in, continuing that attack, and after several minutes, Garrett somehow manages to tag back to Bob Russell, who immediately comes in, misses a drop kick, and runs right into a Gordy, I called it a running spine buster. I don't really know what it was supposed to be, but it looked awesome. And that sets everything up for the Superfly Splash as the heels get a big win heading into tonight. The match goes about 6 minutes.
Yeah, Garrett, I believe Gordy must have liked Garrett because this wasn't the first time that he gave Garrett some offense before squashing him.
Must have been his dealer. No, I didn't say that. So, the heels score a tag team win here on television.
I'm having a bad effect on you, Ray Russell.
Well, I don't know about that. But, out comes Michael Hayes and Kevin Von Erich for a promo. What timing? First, it was Tommy Rich coming out for a promo after a superstar match. It's like they booked this or something. And now it's Hayes and Von Erich out to talk to Gordon after a Gordy and Snuka match. But what happens instead is the heels, they challenge the baby faces to get in the ring. And that they do. And just like last week, another wild brawl ensues between all 4 men as the heels take off and we head into a commercial break, a little more just wetting the taste buds.
Yeah, Gordy's not afraid of anybody. Snuka, Kevin and Hayes.
They clear the ring.
They clear it, but it's beautiful. I mean, it is just, this is prime Georgia right here.
And right now, guys, we're going to go off to Gordon Solie. He's going to talk to both sides, Kevin Von Erich and Michael Hayes. We'll also hear from Terry Gordy and the Superfly.
Let me tell you something. Anytime that you want some of me, I'm going to be around, understand? If I got to be in street clothes to fight you, if I got to be in my trunks to fight you, anytime I get a chance, I'm going to fight you. This is the man, you know what I think back on this? This is the man that was the best man at my wedding. This is the man I traveled up and down the road with for 4 years, and it's the same damn man that rubbed my face in the concrete. No, wait a minute, let me tell you something. There's no way that I'm going to forget it, and there's no way I'm going to let it go by. I don't care how long it takes. But there's one thing that I'm going to take from you, and you damn well better believe it, and that's that Georgia strap. And this man right here is going to help me get it, because if it bothers you, then I'm going to do it slowly but surely till I get you all by myself.
Well, it's an understandable anger here on the part of a man whose feelings that he has been betrayed by a man that was, in fact, the best man.
I taught him everything he knew. Betrayed. He ran out when the going got tough because he's nothing but a big baby.
Well, nonetheless, let's just take a moment right now to talk about tonight at the Omni. You and Michael Hayes against Gordy and Snuka.
Mr. Soley, I got my wings on, I'm snorting fire, and I'm ready to burn it up tonight.
Well, there you have it, the comments from Kevin Von Erich. It's all going to happen tonight at the Omni. Dusty Rhodes defending that world title. The Georgia Tag Team Championship on the line.
There's a lot of championships on the line. And there's going to be some new people strutting out with some different belts. And we're going to be two of them. Because he can beat the body press, and I done took everything you threw. Now you wear that belt for the last time.
To what happened here just moments ago, Mr. Gordy made quite a challenge to Mr. Hayes, and it appeared to me that you and Mr. Snuka were the ones who left the ring.
I believe you're a little prejudiced, man. I think this is what this is all about. You know, you've always heard that Georgia is the hotbed of wrestling, and there's supposed to be all kinds of talent in Georgia. Well, you know, I'm glad that we finally got somebody to go up against us for these titles. You know, Gordon Soley, don't get me wrong. I'm not standing out here saying that we can't be beat. But what I am saying, Gordon Soley, is if anybody out there thinks that they can beat us, come on and try it. Because we are right here and we are waiting. And let me tell you something, Gordon Soley. Like I said, tonight in the Omni, you know, Michael Hayes, I'm getting to where I despise every gut in your body, boy. You're nothing but a low-down, lying, conniving, no good dog. Did you see what he brought on TV, Gordon Soley? You know he can stand out here and call Superfly and myself all kinds of names. But Michael Hayes, that's not going to get you these titles, boy. But I'll tell you what it will get you tonight in the Omni. It'll get you a good whooping. And that's just what you're going to get. Boy, don't come thinking that you're going to get your hands on these titles because this is our bread and butter. This is what puts food on our table. Listen to this. Now see that right there, Gordon Soley? That just goes to right in the Omni, Michael Hayes.
Baby Huey and Terry Gordy and Jimmy Snuka for the Georgia Tag Team Championship. Here's our ring announcer.
Well, Michael Hayes, he thinks back. He talks about Terry Gordy. He was the best man at Hayes' wedding. Yet now he's the same damn man who rubbed his face in the concrete. And tonight, Kevin says he will have his wings on. Jammie snorting fire. I guess you could say he's flying high. Kevin Von Erich snorting something. Go figure.
He's going to be officially a free bird tonight, baby. But the best part about this interview is check out Kevin's T-shirt. It says it's from Stubbies in Australia.
Okay.
I don't know what Stubbies is. You think maybe Jim Barnett gave him the shirt because not only is it a T-shirt, but he's got it tied in a knot.
Oh my boy! I will never wear this gaudy shirt. Oh, you can have.
He has it tied in a knot right above his belly button, like a.
Well, maybe Jim was wearing the shirt then. I don't know.
Like the girls did back in the 70s, with the tied T-shirts.
Well. Girls, sure, if that's what you want to.
Hey, I'll tell you what. Kevin was not afraid to have a sense of fashion.
No, he had his own sense of fashion. That's for damn sure. We also heard from Gordy and Snuka there. Terry Gordy says he's fixing to give Michael a good whipping tonight at the Omni. Gordon Soley, I love the way Gordon sent off here, having a little fun. Ladies and gentlemen, baby Huey and Jimmy. I'm sorry, Terry Gordy and Jimmy. I don't know if you caught that, but that was fun there. A little shenanigans from Gordon, of all people.
Yeah, I was wondering if that was a planned one or if Gordon just kind of slid that in there, being Gordon.
Yeah, could have been. Either way. Oh, my God. Look who else is here this week. We've seen so much talent so far. Now it's the Nature Boy, Ric Flair here, taking on Mark Watson in a squash match here for TV. So first it was Harley Race. We heard from Dusty Rhodes. And now Ric Flair on the same show. I wrote, woo to that, as Flair taking Watson to school on the mat. Third gut-wrench suplex of the week, I should mention, on this show. Everybody should get together and talk about what they're going to do out here. And then it's another vertical suplex as Ric Flair locks in what Gordon calls that unique figure 4 as he locks it in from the opposite side. Going to give the Nature Boy the win, 5 minutes and 45 seconds.
Yeah, Gordon loves us to bring attention to that opposite side figure 4 leg lock.
But yeah, it's kind of interesting that Ric Flair just randomly here this week.
Yeah, look at again, we talked about this a few weeks ago. Look at the loaded roster here in Georgia. I mean, Flair, Race, Ernie Ladder here for a one-off, but still, just look at the talent that's on this show and what CBS meant to pro wrestling at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't even think Flair is booked. I don't think Flair's booked on the Omni card, so we know that he's probably here for another reason.
I have no idea what that could be, but hey, if you have Ric Flair on the show and he's not a bad guy, I'm all for it.
I think he is a bad guy, actually, but we'll get to that promo before we close out this episode. All right, now we're going to go off to a guy I know is a bad guy, one bad dude, talking about Gordon Solie standing by with the former 6-time heavyweight champion, Harley Race.
Right now, let me take a couple of moments to talk to a gentleman that I have the utmost respect for, 6 times world heavyweight champion, looking to gain that title for a 7th time. I'm referring, of course, to Harley Race, a man who at one point in his career, the doctors said, would never walk again and far less would never wrestle again. Went on to become world champion 6 times, the only man in history to do it.
Let me say this, Gordon. The last time I was in the Omni with Dusty Rhodes, I said to him, if you win, I'll be man enough to shake your hand. And I kept my word. You were there that night. I walked out and shook his hand and congratulated him as becoming world's heavyweight champion.
But that was on June 21st, as a matter of fact.
June 21st. But let me tell you this. When I walk back into the Omni tonight, I'm coming to become the 7-time world's heavyweight champion. There's not a man on the face of this earth. My name will be a legend in wrestling 100 years from today. There's not a man alive that's going to keep that 7th time from happening. I'm going to be the all-time greatest, going right on through history, Rhodes, and I'm just sorry that it's you that are standing in my way, because tonight in that Omni, I'm going to pound on you until your mommy will not even recognize you when they haul you back to Austin, Texas. It's a promise, baby. I promised you the last time. I kept my word. I'm doing it this time.
See you tonight.
Well, Harley said that he told everybody he would shake Dusty's hand if Dusty could beat him for the title way back in June, and he did. He shook the man's hand. Harley Race is a man of his word, but Race says, I'm a former 6 times world champion, and it's about to be 7 tonight in the Omni.
I wonder if Terry Gordy stole that from Harley Race. Now we're talking about it. Interesting. But again, hell, just looking back, I mean, I hated Harley Race at this point because I thought Harley was real. And I might even thought world title matches were real at this point. But how eloquent the guy was when he spoke. I mean, it was golden. This whole show is like that. It's professionals doing professional work.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's so many. I keep forgetting Tommy Rich had that little cup of coffee as the world champion, even if it was for 5 days. So we've got all sorts of former world champions here on this show here this week. It's kind of crazy. Speaking of world champions, and no, not Tor Kamata. He is next in the ring taking on Bruce Gallagher, but Great Mephisto going to join commentary. And for much as I put him over earlier as a top tier heel or throughout his career, even though, he had seen better days by this point, obviously. Now, just a manager, he's going to join commentary here with Gordon. And then I got to call some shit out here. I got to call bullshit, as Mephisto didn't do a whole lot of digging. He says that Jim Londos was the first foreigner to win the NWA World title, and Kamata will be the second. Now, to Gordon's credit, he didn't correct him while he was on commentary with him, but the moment Mephisto left commentary, Gordon Solie going to correct him, because I wrote here in my notes before Gordon ever said anything, I wrote, Well, somebody better tell Pat O'Connor or the Giant Baba, or if we're referencing the Londos version of the world title, somebody better tell fucking George Hackenschmidt, for that matter. Does Canada count as foreign soil? Because, I mean, we're forgetting Whipper Watson, Edouard Carpentier, Gene Kaniski. I wrote, holy shit, that's quite the discrepancy.
Well, no, Canada doesn't count. They're the 51st state, as I like to remind my friends up there in the 51st state.
A.
All
right. Well, we still got a few other names here. I don't know. So Gordon corrects him, though. He does mention Pat O'Connor, Giant Baba. So my notes at that point were trivial, but I still wrote him first, damn it. As the match continues on, no selling by Kamata here as he's being struck. In between, he's landing in his martial arts offense, delivers an awesome-looking driving power slam, and then out of nowhere, rather than a heart punch, Mephisto going to distract the referee here, and Kamata landing a heart thrust, I guess you would call it, and Gallagher collapses into convulsions on the mat. Hell, he might be dying for all I know. Is Kamata going to get the win? And apparently that's an illegal move because Mephisto distracted the referee for him to deliver it. A paralyzing move. Kamata goes over 4 minutes and 48 seconds.
Yeah, the only thing Gallagher was missing there was the Alka-Seltzer in the mouth to do a little foaming.
No frothing.
But he could have got an Emmy for that performance right there.
I wasn't sure what that was supposed to do, but I'll tell you what, at the end of the day, Gallagher made that believable. I'll give it that much. I wasn't really sold on that as a finish, but Gallagher, he pushed it along a little bit for me anyway. Man.
Well, he wanted to get his $10 the following week.
I don't know what is going on this week. I mean, every other segment has a world champion, a former world champion, and he's back again. This time, Gordon Solie talking again to the current NWA champion, Dusty Rhodes.
I'll tell you what, the fellow with $1 million smile and a $10,000 gold and diamond studded World Heavyweight Championship belt around his middle is with me right now, Dusty Rhodes.
You know, God, I can't figure out who Harley Race think he fooling, Harley Race be coming out here, be talking real soft. He be talking about, I was a man when I walked up to Dusty Rhodes and shook his hand. He be talking more trash than main men do talk on the streets. You understand? He is talking to the rap master. I was Fantasia before it was customary to be that way. You understand that? I was what was going on before it was customary to be that way. And I was the king of rock and roll when Little Richard was running around in tennis shoes. You understand what I'm saying? Talking about being 6 times, 7 times world heavyweight title. That title don't belong to me. I wouldn't have one damn thing if it was not for the people of the state and of the United States of America that drive the American dream to be what he is right now. So you talk about a struggle. Life is a struggle, Daddy. You sitting out there right now, there's a lot of people can't even get out of a wheelchair. That's a struggle. Harley Race, that's a struggle. There's people that's on Skid Row drinking wine. That's a struggle. But right here's a kid that was digging ditches at 8 years old, and now is world heavyweight champion, and that is a struggle. So tonight, in the Omni, in just a few hours, you're going to have a struggle. You're going to meet a struggle. You're going to meet the rap master. You're going to meet 260 pounds of screaming, stealing sex appeal, Jack. Struggles are my life. Struggles are part of my father's life. They were part of my mama's life. And they are part of the American way of life. And tonight, the Omni, it's going to be a struggle to take that belt from me and my people.
So Dusty says you're talking to the rap master. He'd wait another 10 years to properly utilize that nickname, by the way, with Pia News, Jamie, but just saving it for the right time, baby, if you will. It's the people that drive the American dream, he says, because life is a struggle. Dusty's parents, they struggled. It's just the American way. I don't know if that was the greatest thing ever, but I wrote, with his delivery here, I don't always put this in my notes, but I wrote, what a promo. It's like, come on down to the Omni and watch him defend his title one last time against Harley Race. The only thing that I didn't buy here, Dusty referring to himself as 260 pounds. I wrote, come on, Dust.
Oh, sweet steel and sex appeal.
Uh-huh. Blue-eyed soul, baby.
Blue-eyed soul. Dusty Rhodes. I mean, Dusty could have just, as they say about Rick, or Michael Hayes could recite a phone book and make it sound interesting. Dusty could have recited the phone book right here and everybody would have bought it. hook, line, and sinker.
Well, Dusty on a bad day has a good promo, but this is one of the ones that was a notch above. He's cut quite a few in the past here in Georgia this year, and even here in this episode. But this one really sold me. Like, this was the getter for me. Like, this was the one that would have brought me down to the arena.
Swan song?
Oh, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see, because remember, this is the last dance for Harley Race. He could very well become 7-time world champion.
Right now, the show's about to get better. Go ahead, Ray, tell him.
Well, it's Grumpy Grandpa, number 2, back out here and in singles action for the first time in I don't know how long, taking on Rick Benefield. As Benefield with a slam on Wrestling 2, going to get himself a 2 count, but then he makes the mistake of going for the mask. And, oh, Rick, why do you do that? Wrestling 2 immediately grumps up. You like that? And goes to town with a big knee lift.
I like that, right? I like it. Grumps up. That's mental note. Grumps up.
So he lands the $1 million knee lift. He's not happy, though. He's not done with Rick Benefield. Grumpy, too, man. He goes into another level of rage when you go after that mask. And this week, he locks in the cross arm breaker for a submission win, as Gordon refers to him as thoroughly angered, as Wrestling 2 goes over in 2.5 minutes.
And you know what? 2's not even doing anything in Georgia, but he's just on TV beating people up every single week. Yes. He's involved in no angles. He's just doing some tag team match. Right. And Rick Benefield had to touch the mask. Oh.
Yeah, he was in firm control. 2 was letting him get a few shots in, and then he goes and makes the big mistake there of grabbing at Grandpa's mask, and you just don't do that, guys.
That's like spitting in the wind and trying to pull the mask off the old Lone Ranger.
Tugging on Superman's cape.
Messing around with Jim.
That's right. You just don't do any of those things, guys.
No, not to Mr. Wrestling.
Man, I think we've got one more promo lined up this week, and what a way to close the show, at least with promos. We're going to go back to Gordon Soley now, talking to the Nature Boy. Here he is, Ric Flair.
You know, the old cliche is that the cream rises to the top, and certainly if there's a man who's ever risen to the top in professional wrestling, it's the Nature Boy, Ric Flair, who's with us right now.
Well, Gordon, I thank you very much for those kind words. The preacher's here, isn't he? You know, I was in the back room there, and I heard him come out here. I'm talking about our world champion. Now, I told you, and I told all the people of Georgia, and all the wrestling capitals all over the world, that I was here for competition. Whether it was Rich, whether it was Gordy, whether it was Snuka, whether it was Hayes, whether it was Superstar, or whether or not it was Dusty Rhodes, it made no difference. But let's face it, I'm in the great sport of professional wrestling for the same reason everybody else is. Money and glory. And don't think anything else. Dusty Rhodes, you're the world champion, and I want to be the world champion. You know, unfortunately, I wasn't born the son of a plumber. And I wasn't digging ditches when I was 8 years old. I've always had things the way I wanted them throughout my whole life. If I wanted a big car, I went out and bought it. If I wanted an airplane, I went and bought it. If I wanted the finest clothes money could buy, I went out and bought it. If I wanted this, come here one time. If I wanted this, and I'm going to show you something right here. Come in here, ladies. If I wanted this, Gordon Soley, all I did was snap my fingers. Now, Dusty Rhodes didn't do nothing like that, did he? Ladies and gentlemen, this I've got. The World Championship belt I don't have. Tommy Rich, I don't have you yet either. Superstar, I don't have you yet either. And I'm staying in Georgia till all 3 of you are mine. You understand that? Born with a golden spoon. Used to having life the way he likes it. Anything I want, if I can't buy it, I go out and take it. Think about that, ladies and gentlemen. What Ric Flair wants in the long run, he's going to get. Isn't that right, ladies? Woo! All right.
Yeah. There's not much I'm going to say at this point, except let's go to the ring.
So Rick says there that he's in this for the same thing as everyone else. Don't let him fool you. It's all about the money and the glory. Flair says he can't help that he didn't dig ditches growing up, baby. He simply snapped his fingers and got whatever he wanted. And then, of course, snapping his fingers here, ladies popping into the screen, popping into the frame. Gotta love that. As Flair says, he's staying in Georgia until he gets the title. Because if he can't buy it, he goes out and takes it. Woo!
Great interview, and, you know, setting the plate for things to come for years and years. Mm-hmm. Having those 2 little Georgia peaches, if they were from Georgia. Maybe he brought them from some other state across state lines, and you're not supposed to bring it. And you're not
federal.
supposed to bring it across state lines.
That's
but
federal.
Another story, another day. But it set the stage for what's about to come.
All right, we got a couple matches left here. These are not on my version of the show. Actually, the next match, part of the match is a 6-man action. Tommy Rich, Kevin Von Erich, Michael Hayes over the trio of Tony Russo, Snake Brown, and Alex Rhinoff. We saw him once before, not too pretty. But this matchup, not in its completion, at least not on my version. I apologize. Also, apparently there was a Brian Blair over Don Gilbert match to close out the show. What we do get at the end of my episode, you guys go check this out. This is fun. Too short to post here, but Tommy Rich signing off with Gordon. And as he walks away, he stops and turns around and says, "A lot of good looking ladies out here today, Gordon." And Gordon replies, "Amen to that, brother. So long from the Peach State of Georgia."
And that was Tommy letting somebody know that he's going to be in his sights.
And that was Gordon letting everybody know that he agreed. All right, so we'll touch on this at the top of the next episode as well, but we got a couple minutes here. It's going to be kind of a long show because of the sound bites being spliced in here with everything that we've covered, but...
And that would be different how for our show?
Well, I'm just saying.
It's always a marathon when you and I get going.
Well, we're going to close out. We're going to look at the results from the next OMNI card. Going to try to get back on track with the normal format here. September 12th, Atlanta, Georgia, the OMNI. We built it all up. Might as well look at the results. Tor Kamata over Rick Ferreira. Brian Blair defeating the French Angel. It's Bruno Sammartino Jr. over Professor Sonoda. Tag team action. George Wells and Steve-O defeating Big Cat, Ernie Ladd, and Mike Sharpe on a DQ. Ernie Ladd not going to do a job. Surprised Mike Sharpe didn't do it here for the team, but disqualification, putting the baby faces over. And then we get to the big ones. 3 big matches here tonight. Georgia tag team titles on the line. It is Michael Hayes and Kevin Von Erich defeating the Georgia tag team champions Jimmy Snuka and Terry Gordy by a countout. Finish going to see Michael Hayes. He has Gordy beat in the middle of the ring, but Snuka reaching in and pulling Terry out by his feet, and the heels flee to the locker room, taking the intentional countout.
Very surprised to see Gordy run off because he's usually too stubborn.
Well,
and it's really surprising to see Snuka be the brains of that
outfit. Yes, indeed.
Of that outfit and have that, smart enough to pull him out.
And you're
of the
right.
ring.
Gordy usually is one to not back down from a challenge, but being 20 minutes into the match and maybe about to lose your belt, I think Hayes might have hit the bulldog there. I can't remember, but just a moment away, a second away from losing the titles. Even Gordy thought, well, maybe Snuka's right. Maybe we should powder for the night. So that's going to lead obviously to some interesting booking next week as we get back to TV. But that's where we're at right now, guys. Intentional count out loss there by the champions. Hayes and Von Erich will go over, but the champions will retain. One champion that won't retain, remember, guys, title versus title here. It's the national champion Masked Superstar defeating the Georgia champion Tommy Rich. Now, I kind of saw this coming. Tommy had beat Superstar the last 2 times out, so had he won again, wouldn't have boded well for Bill Eadie's future here in the company. So at the moment, it's going to be the Superstar dual champion.
Yes, dual champion, Masked Superstar. And I have to agree with you, being the fact that they were pushing that Tommy had won the last 2. In hindsight, Superstar had to win, unless he was all of a sudden gave Ole notice and said, I'm going to Japan for a month. There was no reason not to have him win.
All right, and that leaves us with one big matchup here in the OMNI, the final dance between Harley Race, the former champion, and the American Dream Dusty Rhodes, the current champion, and it is the NWA champ, Dusty, retaining over Handsome Harley. So Dusty will retain the title. For the moment, it appears it might be Race's final shot at the championship, but we'll have to wait and see what happens here, as this is basically their big blow-off, 3 months in the making. Of course, Dusty defeated Race for the belt right here in the OMNI. And now, Harley, no more title shots, at least for the time being.
Yes, and it's I don't want to give things away.
Okay, well, that's fair enough. I don't want you to either. So we'll save it for next time. Speaking of next time, in studio on the next TV episode, Otis Sistrunk. The Sistrunk era will begin. Also, we saw a VTR this week. It's going to be Crippler Ray Stevens in town. Jerry the King Lawler stops by the Atlanta studios. Plus, who will be the dual champion? Well, we know it's Masked Superstar. We're going to have to wait and hear what both guys have to say, Rich and the Masked Man, on the next episode of TV. And there may be rumors, I'm hearing rumors, of a new world heavyweight champion. That might be what you were referring to, Jammie. But who will dethrone the American Dream? We'll just have to wait and see.
Again, strictly rumors, but you and I will do some digging and see if we can find out by the next episode.
Absolutely. And we'll discuss that in depth, I'm sure, on the next episode of Regional Wrestling, the Georgia 81 edition. But for right now, Jammie, it's time to wrap things up.
Yes, right. Well, once again, this was another marathon episode with you and I, as it always happens. And I just can't wait till we record each time. You just bring such great memories back out of my head, and I just love it. But if you haven't had enough of me on this podcast, check out WrestleCopia's own The Other Ship podcast with Michael Herrick, Drew Samuels, William Merriweather, and Chris Spiker. I just did back-to-back weeks with those guys as we previewed Queen and King of the Ring.
And recapped
it. And I'll be back on again probably this coming week previewing the Clash at the Castle.
Busy man, and I hear you may be lined up to work a show here with Gene Jackson maybe in the future as well.
At the moment, I'll be donning the tights and joining Gene down in Memphis.
Wow, yeah, the Retro Wrestling Review.
Yes, for some 1993 action.
Yeah, USWA. It's going to be fun times.
Most of that I've seen, but I didn't watch it real in depth. So I just started going back to watching it from January 1, so I'll be all ready when Gene is ready to
Well, it's Memphis. Technically, you really only have to watch the week that you're going to be discussing, because I'm sure the other weeks prior don't really play into it. I mean, that's just how Memphis wrestling works. But yeah, that's going to do it here this week. So much good stuff going on. We've got a lot of great new shows here, part of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network. The Other Ship, you plugged them here for many moons, but now they're actually part of the WrestleCopia family, as is Gene Jackson and his Retro Wrestling Review show, and Dave Dynasty and the Wrestling Nostalgia Podcast as well. All of those, plus all the other great shows we already have. Regional Wrestling, the Wrestling Memory Grenade, the Pro Wrestling Academy. I mean, it goes on and on. The Wrestling Stoop, how can I forget, with Bob Roop, and so much more. So we appreciate you guys. Continue to listen to the show, subscribe to the shows. It's very important to us. And leave those 5-star ratings if you have time. So
I hardly have time to listen to any other podcasts that I all used to listen to, because I'm so busy listening to the Ray Russell universe here.
Well,
and it's great. I mean, I listen to all the other shows, and there's none of them I don't like. I enjoy each and every one of them. The Japan show is outstanding. I'm learning stuff. I had no idea really, how Japan wrestling ever started. And how do you say his name? Ricky Dozan?
Yeah, Ricky Dozan.
And how he is the Babe Ruth.
The Godfather, man.
Yeah, the Godfather. I mean, it's just amazing stuff. And you kind of see stuff that he's doing here in the 50s winds up happening again in the U.S.
Sure.
In the 70s and 80s. Yeah.
Right.
Everything just kind of follows each other. And then, you on with Roman doing the UWF stuff that I remember watching intensely. And then you're going over the 85 stuff with Gene that I was getting tapes of at that time. So those memories are flowing back. And then again with your Wrestling Memory Grenade with the 1988 stuff. I mean, I'm in wrestling heaven. I put on WrestleCopia and I don't have time for anything else. I've still got my staples, but WrestleCopia is taking over my life as far as listening to podcasts. And
if I didn't have to edit,
great.
Yeah, if I didn't have to edit the shows, I mean, I'd be in heaven myself. But it's a little work to get them out, but we get them out, and man, we get so much great feedback, more every week, and I really appreciate it. And we always get so much from the Georgia shows. There's so many great Georgia fans from the old times. They're still around. They remember it. Obviously, it was on cable, so it's a lot more than just the Memphis area or even the UWF, which wasn't everywhere. So it's Georgia is very well loved by the fans on our social media, and hopefully they enjoyed this episode. I'm sure they did. Lots to enjoy here, lots to unpack, and a whole lot more coming next time. So just want to say once again, thank you, Jammie Ward, for being a part. Again, our shows always seem to run a little longer than everyone else's, but that's okay. We're just having a great time anyway.
Absolutely. Oh, and I want to give one more shout out to Mr. Mark Rowland, who has been plugging our show on multiple Facebook pages. So I greatly appreciate it, and I know Ray does
it too, Mark. Yep, absolutely.
Thank you for all the plugs.
Absolutely, guys. So, again, I just want to say thanks, Jammie, for taking the time out here tonight, and I'm sure we will be doing this again very soon.
My honor, and next time you want me, just call.
All right, and that'll wrap it up here this week. But the fun continues on. More Georgia 81, UWF 86, Memphis 85. And of course, I'm your host, Ray Russell, encouraging you to follow me on X at RASSLIN Grenade. That's at RASSLIN Grenade. And don't forget to subscribe to patreon.com/WrestleCopia. So many good gifts out there, guys. And until next time, we'll see you soon for some more regional wrestling, where we talk the territories.